Chapter 1935. What a coincidence. Just when you went to do the mission, they were fighting. One of the three youths looked at Murongyu with a cold smile, as if he was making things difficult for Murongyu. Murongyu was furious, but his expression was calm. It really is a coincidence. I should say that my luck is not bad. If you don't believe me, you could go to the Sky Martial World to verify it. How about this? The entrance mission is very important. It determines whether an outer sect disciple stays or leaves. So, open up your memories and let us see what happened. The middle-aged man who had been silent all this time suddenly said. Murongyu's expression changed, and his eyes were filled with anger. Although this mission determined whether a new outer sect disciple stayed or left, the Sun Martial World did not care. In the entire Sun sect, which one of them didn't turn a blind eye to it? The normal entrance mission was very simple. It was just a formality. Not only was his mission not simple, it was extremely difficult. Now that he had completed the mission, he was still being troubled. If he opened up his memories, wouldn't they be able to peek at Murongyu's other memories? Even if Murongyu hid his other memories, who knew if they wouldn't take an inch and want a mile? Moreover, memories were usually stored in the soul. The soul was the most important existence in a life. How could it allow other people's divine sense to enter it? What if the other party had bad intentions? Wouldn't it be easy to destroy the soul? These three people were clearly deliberately making things difficult for Murongyu. It wasn't as simple as reading Murongyu's memories. They clearly wanted to take the opportunity to kill Murongyu. How could Murongyu not be angry? I'm telling the truth. As for my memories, they're my private property. I can't possibly reveal them, Murongyu said unyieldingly. Hearing this, the faces of the three higher-ups in the mission hall became ugly. They looked at each other and didn't know what to do. Under normal circumstances, as long as Murongyu returned the mission item, and it was accurate, the mission should be passed. That's right, the mission item. The eyes of the old man among the three suddenly glinted. As long as they destroyed Murongyu's quest item, then Murongyu would not be considered to have completed the quest. Moreover, when the time came, he could even turn the tables and accuse Murongyu of toying with the quest hall. Under such circumstances, they even had the right to kill Murongyu on the spot. You two are going too far. As a disciple of the Sun sect, how could Murongyu dare to cheat? In my opinion, as long as the quest item is verified to be correct, the quest can be considered completed. Murongyu, give me your quest item. The old man smiled as he looked at Murongyu. However, in Murongyu's eyes, his smile was so disgusting. These three fellows were originally in cahoots, and now they still wanted to fool him? Did he think he was a 3-year-old child? Murongyu looked at the old man indifferently, acting as if he was taking something from the treasure space. But after a while, he suddenly stopped. Sorry, I don't believe you. The three's faces froze, especially the old man, whose face became very ugly. Murongyu, we are the higher-ups of the quest hall, responsible for checking and accepting quests. What is the meaning of this? The old man looked at Murongyu with a gloomy face, his eyes flashing with a cold, murderous intent. If they weren't in the Sun sect, he would have already killed this annoying kid. Everyone knows that. What if you destroy the Solar Bazaar fruit? Then wouldn't I have failed the quest? Even if I say it, who would believe me? Do you think I would do such a thing? Murongyu looked at the old man like he was looking at an idiot. Sorry, my quest deadline is 10 years, and only 2 or 3 years have passed. It's far from the deadline. I suddenly don't want to turn in the quest now. You guys move aside, I'm going back. Murongyu said, and was about to leave the quest hall. He suddenly felt that it was very dangerous, because there was no one in the quest hall, and he didn't know if anyone could fairly say that he had completed the quest. Therefore, he decided not to turn in the quest hall now, and wait for the quest hall elder to appear before he turned in the quest hall. Murongyu, do you know that you are toying with the quest hall, and we have the right to kill you? The young man blocked Murongyu and said with a murderous look, Oh, what crime did I commit? Of course I have completed the quest. I just don't want to give the quest item to trash like you. What crime did I commit? Get out of the way. Murongyu sneered without restraint. Anyway, he had already fallen out with these people, so what was there to be afraid of? The three were furious, and looked at Murongyu with murderous looks, ready to attack. Murong Yu was not afraid at all. These three were taking advantage of their seniority, and although they were the higher-ups of the quest hall, they were not in the creation realm. They couldn't do anything to him. Besides, so what if they were in the creation realm? If they angered Murong Yu, he would take out the Black Thunder Pearl and kill them. I heard that someone has completed the Flaming Sun Magical Fruit quest. Where is my Flaming Sun Magical Fruit? Just as the two sides were confronting each other, a slightly anxious voice came from outside the house. Then, a middle-aged man kicked open the door of Murong Yu's room and strode in. This person should be the quest hall elder, Elder Duan Hun. When they saw the middle-aged man, the people in the quest hall hurriedly bowed respectfully to Elder Duan Hun, a creation realm cultivator. Murong Yu glanced at the middle-aged man, then lightly cupped his fists at him. He also knew that the Flaming Sun Magical Fruit quest hall Elder Duan Hun was the one who had completed it. It was said that Elder Duan Hun was an expert in alchemy. He had a lot of power in the Sun sect. Little guy, you are the one who completed the Flaming Sun Magical Fruit quest hall Elder Duan Hun? Not bad. A young hero in a level 9 chaotic space realm can complete this quest. Your potential is limitless. The middle-aged man walked to Murong Yu's side and patted Murong Yu's shoulder 3 times with his fan-sized hand. The slap caused Murong Yu to grimace. A creation realm cultivator's strength was extraordinary even if he didn't use any strength. If it had been an ordinary level 9 chaotic space realm cultivator, he would have been slapped to the ground. Only Murong Yu, who had a freakish physical body, could withstand it. Murong Yu immediately said in a neither servile nor overbearing tone, "Yes, I was lucky enough to complete the quest." As he spoke, he took out the Flaming Sun Magical Fruit and handed it to Elder Duan Han. "Ha! It really is the Flaming Sun Magical Fruit. Now, the materials are finally gathered. Kid, you did well. This is my reward for you." As he spoke, he threw a pill bottle to Murong Yu. Murong Yu didn't look at it and kept it in his Hichu Luo shoe. As for the others, they were all looking at Murong Yu with envious gazes. Murong Yu didn't know Elder Duan Han. Elder Duan Han was very famous in the Sun sect because he was an alchemy master. However, this person was usually very stingy, so it was basically impossible to get something good out of him. However, if he was happy, he would take the initiative to reward people with treasures. Some treasures that even creation realm cultivators would covet. The pill bottle given to Murong Yu was most likely a creation realm pill. After giving Murong Yu the pill bottle, Elder Duan Han was ready to leave. However, he was stopped by Murong Yu's shout. "Elder Duan Han, does this count as disciple completing the mission?" The Flaming Sun Magical Fruit is not bad, and it's better than I imagined. Of course, you've completed the quest. Elder Duan Han stopped and looked at Murong Yu strangely. Murong Yu said unhurriedly, "It's like this. The quest hall suspects that I didn't get the Flaming Sun Magical Fruit. They don't intend to let me complete the quest." Is there such a thing? Elder Duan Hun's eyes widened as he looked coldly at the 4 people in the quest hall. "Did you 3 little guys hear what I said? I said his quest has been completed. At the same time, I don't want to hear any bad news about him. Do you understand?" "Yes, we understand." The 4 people's faces darkened as they quickly agreed. They knew Elder Duan Hun's temper. Not only was he stingy and petty, but he was also cruel. If they angered him, the 3 of them would be used as a test subject. "Kid, this is my token. I see that you have good aptitude and talent in alchemy. Come to Duan Hun Peak more often in the future." Elder Duan Hun took out a token and tossed it to Murong Yu. Then, his figure disappeared in a flash. Only the 5 people in the room were left stunned, including Murong Yu. They didn't know why Elder Duan Hun gave Murong Yu a token. Could it be that talent in alchemy could be seen? Little did they know that Elder Duan Hun was also depressed. He only gave the token to Murong Yu on a whim. In history, Murong Yu was definitely the first person he took the initiative to give his token to. For some reason, although it was the first time he saw Murong Yu, he had a good impression of Murong Yu. Perhaps it was because of this that he gave him the token? The four people in the quest hall suddenly had ugly expressions. Elder Duan Hun's power was very terrifying in the Sun Sect. Not only was his strength powerful, but his alchemy ability was also very terrifying. Now that he took the initiative to give Murong-yu a token, didn't that mean that he took a fancy to Murong-yu and intended to take Murong-yu as his disciple? Even if he wasn't taken in as a disciple, didn't Murong-yu rely on such a great god now? Could they still do anything to Murong-yu? Everyone, I wonder if I can leave now? Murong-yu shook Elder Duan Hun's token in his hand and looked at the four with a sneer. The four of them looked like they had eaten shit, and their expressions were extremely ugly. They suspected that if they didn't deliberately make things difficult for Murong-yu, would Murong-yu have become acquainted with Elder Duan Hun? Didn't that mean that Murong-yu was able to become acquainted with Elder Duan Hun because of them? One had to know that they originally wanted to make things difficult for Murong-yu and even kill him. Now, they had made a fool of themselves. Chapter 1936. In the end, the four people in the mission hall could only watch as Murong-yu swaggered away. Murong-yu even sneered at them as he left, as if he was mocking them. The four people in the mission hall were furious, but now that Murong-yu had the backing of Elder Duan Hun, how could they still dare to do anything? I think we should leave this matter to Yi Tian, the old man said plainly, then turned and left. In fact, although they were disciples of the mission hall, they were only inner disciples of the Sun Sect. Because they were not in the creation realm, they were not qualified to be elders of the Sun Sect. What? Murong-yu, that little bastard, actually has the backing of Elder Duan Hun? After learning about this, Yi Tian's face turned green from shock. Big brother, you must kill that little bastard Murong-yu, Yi Kuei said with a ferocious face, his eyes full of resentment. However, as he spoke, the muscles on his face kept twitching. It was because of pain. After Murong-yu broke his limbs, his chaotic energy had been left on Yi Kuei's limbs, preventing him from regrowing them. No matter what Yi Kuei did, even if he broke his limbs, it was useless. Murong-yu's energy was still attached to his wounds, and he could not get rid of it. Even if Yi Kuei asked Yi Tian, he could not get rid of it. One should know that Yi Tian was a powerful existence in the Bright World realm, a power that even he could not get rid of. How terrifying was Murong-yu? Yi Tian was naturally unhappy, and at the same time, he was even more shocked by Murong-yu. However, the more this was the case, the more he wanted to kill Murong-yu. This was because Murong-yu gave him a strong sense of danger. If he did not get rid of Murong-yu before he grew, he would not have the chance to do so in the future. Don't worry, my master will be back soon. I will ask him to get rid of the strange energy in your body. As for Murong-yu, he is dead meat, Yi Tian said plainly, his eyes flashing with a terrifying cold light. Hearing this, Yi Kuei's face immediately revealed a hint of surprise. Yi Tian's master was a powerful elder of the Sun Sect, a terrifying existence in the Blessed Realm. With him making a move, wouldn't it be easy to get rid of Murong-yu's power? Ouch! However, before Yi Kuei could rejoice, he groaned again, and the expression on his face became even more ferocious. This was because of the pain and malevolence. Seeing this, the killing intent in Yi Tian's heart grew stronger. His desire to kill Murong-yu was getting stronger and stronger. However, Murong-yu had already returned to his cave residence. When he saw the girls, he was pleasantly surprised to find that in just 1 or 2 years, the strength of the 5 girls had made great progress. All of them had reached the pinnacle of the rebirth realm, and it wouldn't be long before they all broke through to the chaotic realm. This speed was not only because Murong-yu had given them enough resources, but also because they were extremely talented. If their talents were like pigs, even if Murong-yu gave them more resources and the heaven and earth origin energy here, they wouldn't be able to break through so quickly. However, the higher the realm, the harder it was to break through, and the more heaven and earth origin energy one needed. Although the heaven and earth origin energy in this cave residence was not bad, it was only relative to the average chaotic realm. The effect on them breaking through to the bright world realm was not so obvious. Muronyu pondered. His strength couldn't be improved by cultivating in the Sun sect, and he had to go out to find opportunities. However, sometimes it would take a long time to go out. Just like this time, an ordinary mission had taken him 2 to 3 years. When I have time, I have to find a cave residence with richer heaven and earth origin energy for them. At least, they can reach the bright world realm without any pressure, Muronyu thought. Woof! Kid, your body seems to have grown a little, and your strength is even more unfathomable. What opportunity did you get this time? Are there any treasures for Lord Heavenly Dog? The large black dog bit Muronyu's trousers and asked at the same time. After absorbing a large amount of mystic lightning, Muronyu's physical body finally recovered to the appearance he had when he was 18 years old. Although he still looked a little immature, at least it was considered normal. However, if he wanted to recover to his previous appearance, he still needed to devour more energy. Mystic lightning energy? He didn't dare to continue devouring. What if he accidentally sucked the mystic lightning pearl dry? That was a thunder-type treasure with terrifying power. It was one of Muronyu's trump cards. Not bad, old black. You're already half-step into the chaotic void realm. Muronyu sent the big black dog flying with a kick, causing it to yelp loudly. However, this fellow's cultivation speed was not slower than Zhao, Jiqing, and the others. In fact, in terms of physical body, it far surpassed Zhao, Jiqing, and the other girls. This was because its physical body had already reached the chaotic world realm. This was the benefit of a physique. When Zhao, Jiqing, and the other girls refined the chaotic origin liquid, they could only absorb a small drop of diluted chaotic origin liquid. However, the large black dog directly devoured a large drop of undiluted chaotic origin liquid. This was how the gap widened. Of course, don't you know who I am? The large black dog ran back and flipped its big ears coquettishly. It was incomparably despicable. Brat, I've had enough of this place. With Lord Heavenly Dog's aptitude and cultivation speed, it won't be long before it breaks through to the chaotic world realm. This realm should be considered a small expert in the solar system, right? So, I'm going to leave here and follow you, Brat, to explore the world. You bastard. Every time you go out, you obtain great benefits. Lord Heavenly Dog is really jealous. As the large black dog spoke, he bit Muronyu's trousers tightly with his mouth, as if afraid that Muronyu would run away. Once again, Muronyu sent it flying with a kick. However, it shamelessly pounced on him once more. In the end, after Muronyu agreed, he happily went to the side. The remaining time was given to Muronyu and his 5 beautiful wives. As the saying went, absence makes the heart grow fonder. In the following days, Muronyu and his 5 beautiful wives naturally spent a few days fooling around, pouring out their thoughts in the most primitive way possible. After that, Muronyu left the cave and began to walk around the Sun sect. The Sun sect had a library with a large number of books. In addition to the various cultivation techniques of the Sun sect, there were also books on various other aspects. For example, an introduction to the solar system, the major planets, local customs, and the various sects, and so on. For half a month, Muronyu stayed in the library pavilion and read almost every book in the library pavilion that he could find. Of course, with Muronyu's current realm, it was impossible for him to fully digest those books in half a month. He could only memorize them by rote. When he needed to use them, he could check his memory. However, even so, Muronyu's knowledge had increased significantly. Moreover, Muronyu also knew that although the Sun sect was the ruler of the solar system, the Sun sect was huge. Apart from the lunar sect, there were many other powerful sects in the solar system. The Sun Flame sect, the Golden Flame Fortress, and the other 10 largest sects were entrenched in all directions of the solar system. It was not wrong to say that the Sun sect was the absolute ruler of the solar system. Although the Sun Flame sect and the other 10 largest sects had their own territories, they did not listen to the orders of the Sun sect. However, the Sun sect alone ruled over 60% of the solar system. They were the absolute ruler. as one of the holy maidens of the lunar sect. Although the demoness looked down on the sun sect and felt that the lunar sect was even more powerful than the sun sect, she did not think much of it. That was because she was exaggerating. The lunar sect ruled over about 20% of the solar system. Compared to the sun sect's 60%, the two were on completely different levels. However, it had to be known that the other 10 largest sects and some smaller sects combined only controlled less than 20% of the solar system. Thus, the lunar sect was undoubtedly the second largest sect in the solar system. The demonic woman was not wrong. Moreover, sects like the Sunflame sect and the Sunflame sect also had creation realm cultivators. However, they were far inferior to the Sun sect in terms of peak existences and number of creation realm cultivators. Otherwise, they would have replaced the Sun sect long ago. However, the strength of these sects was also very terrifying. Moreover, don't be fooled by the fact that the area they ruled was very small. However, that was equivalent to the entire solar system. How big was the solar system? Muronyu did not know, but he knew that the solar system was definitely terrifyingly big. In addition, Muronyu also learned about some of the mystic realms and forbidden lands within the Sun sect's territory. Many mystic realms could not be entered casually, especially the valuable ones. However, some forbidden lands could be entered casually. However, apart from being very dangerous, there was nothing special about these forbidden lands. There were no special places like the mystic Thunder Mountain range. However, Muronyu found a forbidden land that also had a large amount of lightning power. Wasn't lightning power what the mystic Thunderbead needed? Muronyu immediately paid attention to it. Unfortunately, the forbidden land of lightning was far away from the Sun Flame sect's territory and was very far away from the Sun Star. Of course, the Sun sect's library did not have everything. Some forbidden lands and mystic realms that had appeared recently had not been updated. Therefore, it was normal that Muronyu did not know about them. After digesting the library, Muronyu stepped into the mission hall again. However, he was not here to accept a mission. He was just here to learn more. In addition to the missions that had to be completed, there were all kinds of missions in the mission hall. Some of the missions had extremely high rewards. The creation realm pills and even origin artifacts were very tempting. However, the missions were also very dangerous. Moreover, they were not suitable for Muronyu at all. What Muronyu needed to do now was to refine a large amount of power to break through to the next realm. At the same time, he needed to improve the demonic vine's realm and repair the mystic Thunderbead. It would be best if he could find other parts of the weapon fragments. Of course, Muronyu still had the star core of the four-origin planet. However, it would be a waste to devour the power of the star core now. Therefore, Muronyu did not plan to use the star core before he reached the creation realm. Just as Muronyu was browsing through the missions, a mission suddenly jumped out. It should have just been released. At the same time that Muronyu saw the mission, the other disciples in the mission hall also saw it. Immediately, the entire mission hall was in an uproar. Chapter 1937. The mission was very simple, and there were only a few words. Capture the thunder spirit of the Thunderclap Desert. If you succeed, you will become the personal disciple of an 8th level elder. At the same time, you will receive a full success true pellet of creation. Or you could get a favor from this 8th level elder. A personal disciple of an 8th level elder. A full success true pellet of creation. A favor from an 8th level elder. Just these two rewards were enough to make all the disciples of the Sun sect below the creation realm go crazy. In fact, even some creation realm existences were tempted by it. 8th level elder? What was an 8th level elder? In the Sun sect, once someone reached the creation realm, they could be promoted to an elder. However, at the beginning, the elders were only 1st level elders. In the Sun sect, merit points could allow an elder to be promoted. However, it was extremely difficult to be promoted based on merit points. That was because the merit points required were terrifying. In the entire Sun sect, there were only a few elders who relied on merit points to be promoted. Then, there was only one way to be promoted. That was to raise one's realm. A creation realm first-level elder was a first-level elder. As long as one reached creation realm second level, one could become a second-level elder. The difference in realm corresponded to the elder's level. The higher the realm, the higher the elder's level. An 8th level elder meant that the person was a terrifying creation realm 8th level elder. In the solar system, there was no one who could surpass the creation realm. In other words, creation realm 9th level was the highest realm. An existence of this level was almost invincible in the solar system. Therefore, there were very few existences of this level. The Sun sect had existences of this level, but there were not many of them. The Lunar sect also had them. However, it was not clear if the other top 10 forces had them. On the other hand, there were slightly more existences in the 8th level of the creation realm. However, there were not that many. Every one of them was a terrifying existence with high authority in the Sun sect. If one could become a disciple of these supreme existences, they would definitely soar to the sky. In addition, there was also a full success true pellet of creation. This true pellet was not a creation realm pellet, but it could allow a universe realm cultivator to break through to the creation realm. Of course, this true pellet was far inferior to the star core. It could not be compared to the heavens' questioning divine vine. However, it could increase the chances of a breakthrough. In the solar system, how many people were stuck at the universe realm? If there was a real elixir of the creation realm, then more creation realm experts would appear. Everyone in the mission hall was tempted. Even Murong Yu was tempted. Of course, Murong Yu was not tempted by the prospect of becoming a legacy disciple of that level 8 elder. Although the blessed realm was powerful, it was not his ultimate goal. His ultimate goal was to control the entire chaos. What moved him was the great success, true pellet of creation. Although he had a star core, the girls didn't. Although Murong Yu could share the star core with them, they spent very little time together. Moreover, what about Murong, Xian, and the others? And what about Shengzhen's disciples? They all needed these pills. Therefore, Murong Yu was also very interested in this pill. However, it was very easy to complete this task. The Thunderclap Forbidden Land was a forbidden land within the Sun Flame Sect sphere of influence that Murong Yu had learned about. Not only was it far away, but it was also very dangerous. Moreover, the existence of the lightning spirit was still a problem. Even if it existed, how could they capture it? This was also a problem. Moreover, those below the creation realm were only interested in the legacy disciples of level 8 elders and the creation true pellet of creation. However, a favor from a level 8 elder was tempting to many creation realm existences. Therefore, it was possible that a creation realm elder would accept this task. Compete with a creation realm elder? Disciples of other realms probably wouldn't have a chance. I want to accept this task. Me too. At this moment, someone had already begun to accept the task. Since there were fewer people accepting the task now, they might be able to complete it first. Otherwise, if a large number of people accepted the task, they would not be able to complete it. One had to know that there was no time limit to this task, but the earlier one completed it, the better. Moreover, there was no limit to the number of people and realms accepting the task. In other words, regardless of whether one was a chaos realm or a creation realm cultivator, they could accept the task. This task is not bad. I'll accept it. Even if I can't complete it, there's no punishment. I think that elder really needs the lightning spirit urgently, but why didn't he do it himself? If he can't even capture it, who can complete this task this time? However, it doesn't matter. Even if I can't complete it, I can still use the lightning from the Thunder Extreme Ground to repair the Black Thunder Bead. Killing 2 birds with 1 stone, why not? Murong Yu pondered in his heart and was about to accept the task. However, what made him feel depressed was that at this time, there was already a long line of people who wanted to accept the mission. Moreover, almost everyone was accepting the task. Murong Yu had no choice but to line up at the end of the line. At this moment, more people had already flocked into the task hall. Obviously, they had all heard the news and came to accept the task. In the end, after half a day, Murong Yu finally accepted the task. He could not help but sigh in his heart at the madness of the Sun sect. However, what he did not know was how tempting the reward of becoming a legacy disciple of a level 8 elder was. Not everyone was as perverted as him. Many people walked step by step. Being able to acknowledge a supreme existence as their master would allow them to walk further in the future and take fewer detours. After accepting the task, Moronyu did not leave immediately. He absolutely did not believe that those people would complete the task so quickly. Therefore, he had enough time to set it up. This time, he did not know how long it would take. Therefore, before leaving, Moronyu had to help Zhao, Jiqing, and the others obtain a higher-level cave residence. In one day, a large number of disciples accepted the task. Moreover, these people who accepted the task all left in a hurry. In less than a few days, the Sun sect was obviously much quieter. It was really too crazy. Moreover, these people's departure made Moronyu depressed. This was because he discovered that the owners of the Bright World grade cave abodes that he had wanted to challenge were all gone. They were not here. How could he challenge them? Although he could issue a challenge and wait for those people to come back to accept the challenge. But what was the use of that? Moronyu walked around the Bright World realm cave residence with a depressed expression. Whoosh! A figure appeared in front of the cave residence, not far in front of Moronyu. Seeing that person, Moronyu was overjoyed and hurriedly rushed up. Senior brother, please wait. What are you, an outer sect disciple, doing here? Why aren't you going down? This disciple was in a hurry because he was in a hurry to complete the task of capturing the lightning spirit. He was originally a little depressed when he was stopped, but when he discovered that Moronyu was just an outer sect disciple, he was furious. Like the elders, the disciples of the Sun sect were also divided into ranks. Outer sect disciples were usually not allowed to walk around the cave residences of Bright World realm existences. Otherwise, all the outer sect disciples would usually come here to cultivate. How could that be? Moreover, Moronyu is now at the intermediate level of the Bright World realm. The person stopped by Moronyu was at the 4th level of the Bright World realm. Senior brother, I'm here to challenge you. Moronyu looked at this unlucky guy with a smile. If this guy didn't accept the challenge, he would definitely beat him up forcefully. Because other than this unlucky guy, there was almost no one in the nearby cave residences. Of course, Moronyu could challenge some more powerful existences, even those who were half-step to the creation realm. But that would be too conspicuous, and it would be disadvantageous for him to be in the limelight. What? You want to challenge me? Do you know what realm I am at? And what realm are you at? The disciple who was stopped couldn't help but laugh, thinking that Moronyu was here to make fun of him. Moronyu looked at this unlucky disciple with a serious expression. Of course I know what realm I am at, and Senior Brother's realm. But I want to challenge you. Do you accept or not? The disciple who was challenged was so angry that he laughed and looked at Moronyu coldly. He felt that this kid was simply out of his mind. Challenge him? What a joke! He was going to complete the mission now. However, looking at Moronyu's serious expression, he knew that he couldn't get rid of him for a while. Moreover, if he just left like this, others would misunderstand that he didn't dare to accept Moronyu's challenge. Okay, then make your move. I accept your challenge, but I won't be merciful, the disciple said coldly. Moronyu wasted his time, so he decided to teach this ungrateful guy a lesson. Then I'll make my move, Moronyu said, and then punched out. The disciple who was challenged felt his vision blur, and then he saw a huge fist coming at him at extremely terrifying speed, quickly approaching his face. Bang! Before he could react, he felt a sharp pain on his face, and then he was sent flying. What's going on? The unlucky disciple stretched out his hand to wipe the pain on his face, and then he saw that his hand was covered in blood. Is this guy still a level 9 chaotic space realm disciple? Is a level 9 chaotic space realm so terrifying? The disciple was extremely depressed. Senior brother, you lost. Thank you for letting me win. My cave abode was Outer Sect Cave Abode number 10. You can move in directly when you come back. Moronyu's voice sounded in his ear. I lost. The level 4 Bright World Realm disciple was stunned, and then he removed the ownership of the cave abode behind him. After Murong Yu entered the cave abode that originally belonged to him, he let out an incredulous scream. How could he lose? He was defeated by a level 9 chaotic space realm disciple with a single punch? This was too embarrassing. Moreover, there were still many things in his cave abode. However, at this moment, black shadows were constantly thrown out of the cave abode. If they didn't belong to him, then what were they? The unlucky disciple hurriedly put everything that belonged to him into his spatial treasure, and then he asked in a daze, "Who are you?" "Outer sect disciple. Murong Yu." Murong Yu replied. Chapter 1938. Outer disciple. Murong Yu. That unlucky disciple's face darkened. He didn't say anything else and quickly left the Sun sect. He was a 4th-stage Bright World Realm inner disciple, but he was knocked down by an outer disciple with a single punch. How could he endure this? However, he was slightly relieved that there didn't seem to be many people nearby. Moreover, all of this happened too quickly. No one should have noticed. In fact, that unlucky disciple was wrong. Although there weren't many people who saw this scene with their own eyes, the news quickly spread among the outer and inner disciples of the Sun sect. As for the 10th cave abode of the outer sect, that unlucky disciple wouldn't go there. Wouldn't that be a confession without being pressed? He decided that after returning from the Thunderclap Extreme Ground, he would find a Bright World Realm inner disciple, beat him up, and then occupy his cave abode. Moreover, who knew if he would obtain the Thunder Spirit in the Thunderclap Extreme Ground this time? If he obtained the Thunder Spirit, he would become the personal disciple of an 8th-stage elder. That would be incomparably glorious. He ignored that unlucky disciple and didn't care if anyone saw this scene. After Murong Yu entered the cave abode, he quickly set up some restrictions and formations to protect the safety of Zhao Jiqing and the others. Although others couldn't force their way in after the formation recognized him as the owner of the cave abode. However, Murong Yu never relied on others. After setting up, Zhao Jiqing and the others came out of Hichu Luo Shu. In the following time, Murong Yu didn't immediately leave the Sun sect for the Thunderclap Extreme Ground. Instead, he stayed with Zhao Jiqing and the other girls. After all, he didn't know how long this trip would take. However, after 3 days, Murong Yu left the cave abode and walked out of the Sun sect with the big black dog. The reason was none other than the big black dog. Ever since he knew about the mission of the Thunderclap Extreme Ground, the big black dog came to bother Murong Yu every day. Sometimes, Murong Yu was so annoyed that he wanted to slap the big black dog to death. In the end, he couldn't take it anymore and left the Sun sect. He didn't activate the Hichu Luoshu's teleportation array. That was because Murong Yu had never been to the Thunderclap Extreme Ground before. It was the opposite direction to the Martial Heaven world. Therefore, he could only teleport to the origin planets one by one. With his identity as a disciple of the Sun sect, he could use any ordinary teleportation array within the Sun sect's territory. However, the origin crystals required for the teleportation had to be paid by the teleporter himself. If it was before, even if Murong Yu could use the teleportation array, he would not be able to teleport, because he didn't have enough crystals. However, the treasuries of the 6 powers of the Martial Heaven world were all in his hands. He didn't have much, just a lot of origin crystals. Other than giving a portion to Zhao Jiqing and the other girls, the rest of the crystals were all with him. It was precisely because of this that he had been able to return from the Tianwu world's transportation formation. Feiyu Star, a trinity star in the solar system. The world of cultivators was much stronger than the Heaven Martial world of Trinity Star. Apart from a few ferocious beasts, the Heaven Martial world only had 6 half-step to manifestation realm cultivators. However, there were at least 60 half-step to manifestation realm cultivators on the Feiyu Star. Moreover, the powers here were complicated and their combined strength was extremely strong. Perhaps it was because the Feiyu Star had a teleportation array that was directly connected to the Sun sect. In the past few days, the Feiyu Star had been especially crowded with powerful cultivators. They were all disciples of the Sun sect. There were also many chaotic space realm, bright space realm, and even manifestation realm cultivators. However, they did not stay on the Feiyu Star. Instead, they passed by the Feiyu Star and quickly left through another transportation array. This was because the Feiyu Star was the furthest origin planet from the Thunderclap Extreme Ground that had a transportation array. In order to go to the Thunderclap Extreme Ground, one had to transit through the Feiyu Star. At first, the Feiyu Star's powerful cultivators were all scared out of their wits when they saw the Sun Sect's disciples coming bravely. They thought that they had offended the Sun Sect, so the Sun Sect came out in full force to destroy everyone on the Feiyu Star. However, the news about the Thunderclap Extreme Ground spread quickly. The Feiyu Star calmed down. Since the Sun Sect was not looking for trouble with them, why were they so agitated? Moreover, the mission had nothing to do with them. If they were not disciples of the Sun Sect, it would be useless even if they obtained the Thunder Spirit. In fact, it was not useless. If they could capture the Thunder Spirit, they could sell it to the Sun Sect's disciples at a high price. The mission reward was so generous that some people would be willing to go bankrupt. One was willing to take the hit, and the other was willing to take the hit. Therefore, some people from the Feiyu Star went in the end. However, most people were still calm. Not to mention whether they could obtain the Thunder Spirit. Even if it was a long journey, it was still uncertain whether they could make it. After all, not everyone had enough origin crystals. Were they not afraid that they would not be able to come back? Moreover, they were going to the Sun Flame Sect's territory. It was very likely that they would be killed. Whoosh! As soon as Murongyu left the transportation array, he grabbed the large black dog and soared into the sky, flying toward another city on the Feiyu Star. Only that city had a transportation array that could allow them to continue. Murongyu, I've been waiting for you for a long time. You're finally here. However, not long after Murongyu entered the city, a cold voice sounded in his ears. At the same time, a group of more than 10 people appeared in front of him, blocking his way. Murongyu looked at these people and frowned. As his eyes flashed, he saw a familiar face in the crowd. Yi Kuei, who was almost crippled by him. Beside Yi Kuei was a rather handsome young man. Level 9 Bright World Realm. Most importantly, this young man looked very similar to Yi Kuei. He should be Yi Kuei's brother, Yi Tian. The rest of the people should be Yi Tian's lackeys. Now that he had left the Sun Sect, Yi Tian was waiting here. Did you want to kill him here? Woof! A good dog doesn't block the way. Yi Kuei looked at Murongyu with hatred. Just as he was about to speak, the large black dog spoke first. Yi Kuei and the others were furious. He was treating them like dogs. Little bastard, those who are with you are indeed not good. Yi Kuei looked at Murongyu coldly, his eyes full of hatred. Are you a good thing? The large black dog was very despicable. It was just that he had been with Zhao Jiqing and the other girls all these years, so he couldn't show his despicableness. Therefore, after meeting these dogs, he couldn't hold back. Yi Kuei was almost angered to death by the large black dog. Brother, this little bastard is Murongyu. He must die today. Yi Tian faintly nodded and looked at Murongyu with a murderous look. Kill yourself. Otherwise, I'll make you wish you were dead. Murongyu looked at them with disdain. Finally, his gaze landed on Yi Kuei's face. Yi Kuei, your limbs are reconnected? How does it feel? Hearing this, Yi Kuei couldn't help but shudder. Murongyu's methods were very cruel. The pain was deeply engraved in his memory. Thinking about it made him shudder. Looking at Murongyu, Yi Kuei's eyes were full of hatred. If it wasn't for the fact that he knew he was no match for Murongyu, he would be the first to charge forward. Brother, I changed my mind. I don't want this little bastard. I want to take him down and torture him day and night. I want to extract his soul and refine it. Yi Kuei said with gritted teeth. Those who didn't know would think that Murongyu had a blood feud with him. Senior brother Yi, let me take him down. An inner court disciple volunteered. After Yi Tian nodded slightly, he stepped forward. His enormous divine sense rushed toward Murongyu like a stormy sea. He had already locked onto Murongyu. Brat, these bastards are too weak. They are not worthy of Lord Heavenly Dog's attention. I'll leave them to you. Beat them down for me. Seeing the other party charging over, the big black dog immediately cowered. He immediately flashed behind Murong Yu, causing everyone to despise him. Yi Tian, as an inner court disciple, do you want to violate the sect rules? The sect rules state that disciples of the same sect can't kill each other. Murong Yu said coldly. Yi Tian smiled faintly. The sect rules can only restrict ants like you. As long as I'm strong enough, won't the sect rules be trampled by me at will? Besides, if I kill you here, who will know that you died in my hands? I have Elder Duan Hun's token. Aren't you afraid that Elder Duan Hun will find trouble with you? Kill you? Yi Tian shook his head. Do you think that Elder Duan Hun will know that I killed you? I've already set up restrictions here a long time ago. Even if the sky falls and the earth shatters here, the people outside won't find out. Hearing this, a smile appeared on Murong Yu's face. In other words, if I kill all of you, no one will know. In that case, none of you can escape. As he spoke, Murong Yu took a step forward. Hearing Murong Yu's words, the people on Yi Tian's side sneered. So what if Murong Yu was strong? He was just a chaotic space realm level 9. Besides, Yi Kuei, the weakest among them, was a bright world realm level 6. If they couldn't kill Murong Yu like this, then they wouldn't have the face to see anyone. However, their confidence was soon shattered by Murong Yu's punch. Take the Sun Sect disciple who forced Murong Yu could only say one word. Before he could say the second word, Murong Yu had already punched him in the head. Then, he directly smashed his fist and even destroyed his soul. This word became the last word that person said in his life. With Murong Yu's current strength, it wasn't difficult for him to kill a creation realm cultivator, let alone a bright world realm level 6 cultivator. Killing him would be as simple as stepping on an ant. The sneers on Yi Tian's and the others' faces froze. At this moment, a bad feeling surged in their hearts. Didn't you want me dead? Today, this place will be your grave. Yi Tian, don't you think it's very ironic? Did you dig this grave yourselves? Murong Yu sneered and slowly closed in on Yi Tian and the others. Yi Tian's face was a little ugly, and Yi Kuei was shocked speechless. Chapter 1939. Die. A bright world realm level 7 inner court disciple bellowed as he took a step forward and arrived in front of Murong Yu. Whoosh! A saber that emitted a terrifying aura appeared in his hand out of thin air, and he slashed at Murong Yu fiercely. He wanted to kill Murong Yu. Murong Yu smiled disdainfully and grabbed the air with his hand. He grabbed a bright world realm origin weapon in his hand. Then, he slashed at it directly. Murong Yu would not underestimate anyone. Moreover, the other party used an origin weapon. Although his physical body was strong, he was not stupid enough to use his physical body to resist. Boom! An earth-shattering sound burst out, followed by a shrill scream. At the same time, a black figure flew out quickly. It was the Bright World Realm Level 7 Inner Court disciple. He was only a Bright World Realm Level 7 Inner Court disciple. Murong Yu's combat power was comparable to a half-step to the creation realm. Wasn't it easy to defeat him? Bang! The Bright World Realm Level 7 Inner Court disciple flew for a distance in the void. Before he fell, his entire physical body suddenly exploded. Then, he turned into a cloud of blood mist and drifted between heaven and earth. His soul was also shattered in the process. One hit, one kill. If Murong Yu killed the Bright World Realm Level 6 Inner Court disciple by luck or a sneak attack, then what did it mean to kill the Bright World Realm Level 7 Inner Court disciple? Was the first time a fluke? Was the second time a fluke? This was the embodiment of power. Murong Yu's strength was far stronger than the Bright World Realm Level 7 Inner Court disciple. Seeing this scene, Yi Tian and the others' faces were extremely gloomy. Yi Tian was slightly better. After all, he had a creation realm master and had some trump cards, so he was not afraid of Murong Yu. However, his followers did not have those trump cards. At this moment, their faces were pale, and their eyes were filled with fear. Dong! Murong Yu took another step forward. The moment his feet touched the ground, a dull thud was heard. This sound was like a giant hammer striking the hearts of Yi Kuei and the others, causing them to feel pain in their hearts. In the end, Yi Tian could not help but take action. If he allowed Murong Yu to continue killing, then all the people he brought with him would be killed. These were his foundations, and he would never allow such a situation to occur. Therefore, he took a step forward and looked coldly at Murong Yu. Murong Yu, I admit that I underestimated you, but you will still die here today. As he spoke, a beam of light suddenly shot out from Yi Tian's body. In the next moment, something that looked like a millstone appeared above his head. It spun gently, and rays of light fell down, enveloping Yi Tian firmly. When they sensed the powerful aura emitted by the millstone, joy flashed across Yi Kuei and the rest's faces. A creation stage origin item. Yes, the origin item that Yi Tian had summoned was indeed a creation stage origin item. It should have been given to him by his creation stage master. Based on his identity and status, it should not be difficult for him to obtain a creation stage origin item. Even Murong Yu himself had several creation stage origin items. This was given to me by my master in order for me to complete this task. Originally, I did not intend to use it. However, Murong Yu, you have really exceeded my expectations. However, since you were able to die under a creation stage origin item, you should be able to smile in the underworld. Yi Tian looked at Murong Yu and said calmly. His eyes were filled with cruelty. Is that so? Murong Yu's footsteps didn't stop as he slowly walked over. I'd like to see how powerful your manifestation yuan artifact is. As he spoke, Murong Yu suddenly increased his strength and combat strength. Rumble. In an instant, waves of terrifying power erupted from Murong Yu's body like stormy waves and swept towards Yi Tian and the rest like a crazy tide. Bright World Realm Level 7, Bright World Realm Level 8, Bright World Realm Level 9. Murong Yu's strength continued to increase crazily. In the blink of an eye, he had reached the same level as Yi Tian, the Bright World Realm Level 9. In fact, Murong Yu's strength could still be increased, but there was no need for that. Yi Kuei looked at Murong Yu with a pale face. His voice trembled, and he could not continue speaking. It was the same for the others. Even Yi Tian was deeply frightened. Was this guy really just a chaotic world realm level 9 cultivator? How could he have the aura and strength of a bright world realm level 9 cultivator? A freak who could fight across a realm? Such a person was unique even in the Sun Sect. If the higher-ups of the Sun Sect found out, they would definitely nurture Murong Yu at all costs. If that was the case, Yi Tian would not be able to stay in the Sun Sect in the future. Even his master would not be able to do anything to Murong Yu. No, Yi Tian roared. He would never allow such a situation to happen. Therefore, Murong Yu would definitely die. So what if Murong Yu had the strength of a Bright World Realm Level 9 cultivator? Did he have a Creation Realm origin artifact? Moreover, Yi Tian had other trump cards. Die! Yi Tian roared furiously. A frightening aura erupted from the origin tool millstone, which was at the manifestation realm. It shook the heavens and earth as it charged toward Murong Yu. Murong Yu's expression was calm. The origin artifact in his hand did not make any moves. He just slashed forward. Boom! After a loud explosion, the origin artifact in Murong Yu's hand shattered. After all, it was only a Bright World Realm origin artifact. It could not compete with a Creation Realm origin artifact. A powerful force surged into Murong Yu's body and blasted him away. Great! Seeing this, Yi Kuei and the others all cheered. So what if Murong Yu was powerful? He was still no match for Yi Tian. However, Yi Tian, who was one of the parties involved, was not happy. This was because he knew that although he had successfully blasted Murong Yu away, Murong Yu did not suffer any substantial injuries. As expected, Murong Yu's body swayed, and he stood firmly in the void. A Creation Realm origin artifact is just so, Murong Yu said with disdain. He was not deliberately pretending to be disdainful. The millstone was indeed a Creation Realm origin artifact, but Yi Tian could not unleash much of its power. At most, it was comparable to a half-step to the Creation Realm origin artifact. Murong Yu was capable of directly resisting such a level of combat power. Thus, he let out a long howl, raised his fists, and charged forward. Yi Tian's face was gloomy. He controlled the millstone and fought with Murong Yu. On the other hand, Yi Kuei and the others retreated far away, especially Yi Kuei, who was firmly protected behind the few inner sect disciples. This was because the aftermath of the battle between Murong Yu and Yi Kuei was extremely terrifying. If he was accidentally hit, he might die. Ha ha! Murong Yu didn't use any origin tools. Instead, he relied on his physical body and incomparably powerful combat strength to fight Yi Tian to a standstill. Moreover, this was the most satisfying fight that Murong Yu had had during this period of time. This was because the enemies he had encountered before were either stronger or weaker than him. He had a hard time fighting against those who were stronger than him. As for those who were weaker than him, he killed them with a single punch. He did not feel satisfied at all. Yi Tian, who had used his Creation Realm origin artifact, was about the same level as Murong Yu. Therefore, the more Murong Yu fought, the more satisfied he felt. On the other hand, Yi Tian's face darkened as he fought. The more he fought, the more impatient he became. Because the millstone had been specially refined by his master, he could also unleash a very small portion of its power. Moreover, the power required was not much. However, that was for a Creation Realm origin artifact. Compared to controlling a Bright World Realm origin artifact, the power consumed in each instant was still too much. Therefore, after a great battle, his power was almost exhausted. If he did not have elixirs that could replenish his power would have been exhausted long ago. As for Murong Yu, the more he fought, the more energetic he became. How could he be exhausted? His power seemed to be limitless. Yi Tian was right. In a battle of this level, Murong Yu's power was indeed endless. Yi Tian, you've almost exhausted your power, right? What other trump cards do you have? Use them. Murong Yu gathered his power and punched the millstone, sending it flying. This was the first time he had sent a Creation Realm origin artifact flying. It was not that the Creation Realm origin artifact was too weak, but that the power that Yi Tian could unleash was getting smaller and smaller. At this moment, Yi Tian was already being suppressed by Murong Yu. If this continued, even if Yi Tian had a Creation Realm origin artifact, he would definitely be killed by Murong Yu. Yi Tian knew this, and so did Yi Kuei and the others behind him. Murong Yu, I admit once again that I underestimated you. However, even if you break through to the Creation Realm today, you can't escape death. Murong Yu growled with a ferocious expression, and there was hesitation in his eyes. However, he soon made up his mind and took out a talisman with a pained expression. As soon as the talisman appeared, a terrifying aura shook in all directions. The aura that erupted was actually several times stronger than the millstone. Murong Yu's expression also became serious because the talisman gave him an extremely strong and dangerous aura. However, he did not know what the talisman was. A forbidden weapon. A Creation Realm forbidden weapon? An inner court disciple behind him exclaimed when he saw the talisman in Yi Tian's hand. A forbidden weapon? An explanation of a forbidden weapon instantly appeared in Murong Yu's mind. A forbidden weapon was something that could only be used once or several times. It contained an extremely terrifying power. However, when a number of times it was used reached the limit, the forbidden weapon would explode and become useless. A forbidden weapon was different from an origin artifact. Origin artifacts generally would not explode and could be used repeatedly. However, the prerequisite was that one's realm was the foundation. For example, a Creation Realm origin artifact could only be fully activated by a cultivator who was at least in the Creation Realm to unleash its full power. However, this was not the case for a forbidden weapon. Anyone could activate it. Moreover, the most important thing was that the level of the forbidden weapon would be determined by the level of its power after activation. Just like the forbidden weapon in Yi Tian's hand, It could unleash the power of a creation realm origin artifact after activation. This should be made by his master. However, what level of elder was his master? Chapter 1940. A forbidden weapon was generally equivalent to the maker's full strength attack. If Yetion's master was a first-level elder, then the restriction he made could exert the power of a first-level creation realm cultivator. If Yetion's master was a high-level elder, then the forbidden weapon could easily kill Murong-Yu. Murong-Yu's expression became serious. With a thought, he had already taken out the Hichu, Luo-Shu, the weapon fragments, and other treasures. Yetion's restriction could definitely kill him. Of course, this was on the premise that Murong-Yu did not resist. My master is a second-level elder of the Sun Sect. This is a forbidden weapon he made and can be used 3 times. In other words, this forbidden weapon is equivalent to my master's full-strength attack 3 times. Yetion explained when he saw Murong-Yu's serious expression. In fact, he was not explaining to Murong-Yu out of kindness. Instead, he was showing off. Moreover, he already planned to kill Murong-Yu, so he was not afraid that Murong-Yu would reveal his secret. Just like how Murong-Yu did not hesitate to show his full strength in front of them, he did not plan to let these people go. Anyway, they were already dead, so if they found out, would a dead person spread the news? However, after hearing Yetion's words, Murong-Yu was relieved. A second-level elder was equivalent to a second-level creation realm cultivator. When he was in the Black Thunder Mountain, he had seen a Black Thunder Beast in the creation realm. After the Black Thunder Beast's realm stabilized, it was equivalent to a second-level creation realm cultivator. Murong-Yu thought that his strength should be able to withstand the Black Thunder Beast's attack. Then, he could naturally withstand the attack of Yetion's forbidden weapon. Moreover, what made Murong-Yu even more delighted was that Yetion's talisman seemed to be of the lightning attribute. This was because Murong-Yu clearly saw that the talisman's surface was flowing with electric light. Thunder and lightning were undoubtedly much less effective against Murong-Yu. When it hit Murong-Yu, at least 30% of the attack would be reduced, right? As a result, Murong-Yu was even less afraid of Yetion's attacks. However, Murong-Yu did not plan to take these attacks head-on. This forbidden artifact was a good item. Wouldn't it be a waste to use it here? If he could snatch it, that's right, Murong-Yu wanted to seize the other party's forbidden artifact. Wait. Seeing that Yetion was about to throw the forbidden weapon over, Murong-Yu shouted loudly. The shout caused Yetion's hand to tremble, and he nearly tossed the forbidden artifact away. But in the end, he stopped and looked at Murong-Yu as if he was looking at a dead man. Do you have any last words? Because of his absolute confidence, Yetion was not afraid that Murong-Yu would cheat him. A smile appeared on Murong-Yu's face. Actually, I still have a trump card. You only know that I have the battle prowess to cross an entire realm, but today, I will tell you a big secret about me. What big secret? Yetion, Yi Kuei, and the others could not help but look at Murong-Yu. My secret is that I am not just an ordinary cultivator. I'm also a soul cultivator. Soulstorm. When they heard that Murong-Yu was a soul cultivator, Yetion and the others were shocked. But at that moment, the soul attack that Murong-Yu had been charging up for a long time had already erupted. Pooh! 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 In just a flash, Yetion and the others were enveloped by Murong-Yu's soul attack, which furiously erased their souls. In less than 1 breath's worth of time, everyone's souls, with the exception of Yetion, had been erased. Yetion was the only exception. At the same time that Murong-Yu's soul attack made its way into Yetion's soul space, Yetion's soul space abruptly released an incomparably terrifying lightning bolt. The lightning bolt spread throughout Yetion's soul space. In just the blink of an eye, Murong-Yu's soul attack had been completely shredded apart. It was unable to kill Yetion. Little bastard, you must die today. Although Yetion did not die, his soul was violently shaken. The excruciating pain almost made him faint. Moreover, when he came to his senses, he discovered that his younger brother, some of his followers, had all had their souls erased by Murong-Yu. If his master had not thought of this step, he would have already died. However, his master's lightning power could only protect him once. If Murong Yu attacked again, his soul would be completely exposed to Murong Yu's attack. Moreover, after suffering from Murong Yu's soul attack, Yi Tian discovered how terrifying Murong Yu was. If Murong Yu had not attacked him with all his strength, even his master's lightning power would not have been able to protect his soul. While speaking, Yi Tian had already activated the forbidden tool. Suddenly, a terrifying aura that could destroy heaven and earth burst out. What a terrifying lightning power! Murong Yu's face suddenly changed. He had already rushed into the Hichu Luo Shu. Although he was confident that he could withstand these lightning attacks, he was not stupid enough to take them head-on. He did not have a masochistic tendency. Asterisk rumble. Asterisk in the blink of an eye, the world was filled with endless thunder and lightning. Even the restriction that Yi Tian had set up before was directly shattered under the bombardment of the lightning. Looking from afar, the world had become a world of lightning. The lightning raged and destroyed everything. Under the bombardment of the lightning, the corpses of Yi Kuei and the others were immediately turned into dust. Even Yi Tian did not have time to collect his brother's body. However, although these lightning bolts were fierce, they avoided Yi Tian as if they had a mind of their own and did not bombard him. Otherwise, Yi Tian would have died without a doubt. The lightning disappeared as quickly as it appeared. Soon, it disappeared without a trace. The world had been turned into ruins. The endless lightning once again transformed into a talisman, which Yi Tian grabbed in his hand. However, the talisman seemed a little dim at this time. If he used it 2 more times, the talisman would become useless. Murong Yu, who was in the Hichu Luo Shu, felt his heart ache when he saw this. He had wasted an opportunity just like that, during the endless lightning attack just now, because the particles that the Hichu Luo Shu had transformed into were very small. It did not suffer much damage. Moreover, with Murong Yu's strength, he easily withstood the overflowing damage. It only caused his qi and blood to churn a little. This was because the lightning attack was not concentrated. If a second-stage creation powerhouse punched the Hichu Luo Shu, the overflowing damage would directly destroy Murong Yu's physical body and even his soul. Yi Tian's expression flickered as he looked at the world that had been turned into ruins. He had a feeling that Murong Yu had not been killed. This was because Murong Yu had already disappeared when the lightning struck. However, he had no way of finding Murong Yu now. However, Murong Yu, who was only in the chaotic space realm level 9, had the combat power of a bright space realm level 9, and was also a soul cultivator. Once this news spread, he believed that many people would be interested in Murong Yu. A soul cultivator. Even the Sun Sect's level 8 and level 9 elders would not be able to resist attacking Murong Yu. Although he did not kill Murong Yu with his own hands, he was still borrowing someone else's knife to kill him, wasn't he? Moreover, Murong Yu's strength was too terrifying, and Yi Tian did not want to continue staying here. If Murong Yu were to ambush him again, he would definitely die. Therefore, he unfolded his body and was about to leave this place. However, at this moment, his body suddenly stiffened. This was because he clearly saw that Murong Yu had appeared in front of him unknowingly and was looking at him with a smile. Yi Tian, where are you going? Yi Tian's first reaction was to throw the forbidden weapon at Murong Yu. However, it was too late. Why would Murong Yu given the time to do so? Saint's Soul Slash. The soul sphere within Murong Yu's soul space started to spin frantically. Strands of soul power containing terrifying might quickly gathered together, forming an incomparably huge soul blade that ruthlessly slashed at Yi Tian's soul. Not to mention that Yi Tian's soul space was no longer protected by his master's lightning power. Even if it was, it might not be able to withstand Murong Yu's attack. Poof! Without any suspense, Yi Tian's soul was sliced into 2. Then, the soul blade vibrated and erupted with terrifying soul power, directly crushing Yi Tian's soul into dust. Finally, it was completely annihilated between heaven and earth. Even if an almighty intervened, Yi Tian would not be able to revive. Yi Tian was dead. Asterisk Kacha. Asterisk while Liski's soul was being annihilated, a soul jade slip in one of the rooms in the Sun Sect's cavern on Sun Mountain turned into dust. This soul jade slip belonged to Yi Tian, and this cave abode was his master's cave abode. Yi Tian is dead? Who killed him? Yi Tian's master happened to be cultivating in the cave abode. When he heard the strange noise, he looked over. Then, he roared angrily. His terrifying voice even spread out of his cave abode and shook the entire Sun Mountain. In an instant, countless people knew that Yi Tian was dead. Who killed Yi Tian? Don't they know that this guy's master is always protective? I'm afraid that person is in for a tragedy. Many people who knew Yi Tian's master mourned for Murongyu in their hearts. At the same time, more people secretly rejoiced. Yi Tian had always relied on his master to do whatever he wanted in the solar sect. This had made them unhappy for a long time. If it weren't for the master and disciple's background, Yi Tian and his master would have been killed long ago. However, with their background, no one dared to do anything to them. I wonder who killed Yi Tian. That guy's pretty good. Huh? Some people were already laughing out loud. Yi Tian's master had already left the cave abode and the Sun Sect with a murderous aura. On the other side, Murongyu was slowly plundering Yi Tian's belongings. There is a forbidden weapon that could be used twice, a creation realm origin artifact, and some good stuff in Yi Tian's spatial treasure. These gains made Murongyu smile and praise Yi Tian as a child of fortune. Little did he know that a great disaster was about to befall him. He only thought that Yi Tian's master was only a second-rank elder of the Sun Sect and was nothing to worry about. However, the master and disciple's background was extremely terrifying. It was far more than what Murongyu thought. Chapter 1941. After collecting all of Yi Tian's treasures, Murongyu burned Yi Tian to ashes, leaving not even a trace of him behind. As for Yi Kuei and the others, they had long been turned into dust by the power of lightning from the forbidden weapon. Then, Murongyu left the Featherplume Star and rushed towards the Thunderclap Extreme Ground. Not long after Murongyu left, a powerhouse with a terrifying aura is shot over from afar. He stopped at the ruins of the battle between Murongyu and Yi Tian. Yi Tian's tracks are here. He should have been killed here. The man's voice was low. A terrifying, murderous intent shot out from his body. It was very frightening. This man should be Yi Tian's master, the second-rank elder of the Sun Sect, Linan. Retrace! Linan shouted. The power of time and space erupted from his body, acting on the heaven and earth. He wanted to restore the scene of the battle. However, what made Linan angry was that the time of this heaven and earth seemed to have been destroyed. It was impossible to restore the scene before and after the battle. In the end, Linan saw Yi Tian and the others. However, that was before Murongyu arrived. Moreover, Linan could only restore the scene. He could not hear what they were saying. What was the use of seeing all this? He did not know who the murderer was. How could he take revenge without knowing the murderer? Who is it? Who dares to kill my disciple? Linan roared furiously. His eyes flashed with terrifying murderous intent. Murongyu, the new Outer Sect disciple? I heard that Yi Tian has been dealing with him these few days. Could it be him? But he can't be so powerful. Or is it the person behind him? Whether it is or not, everything will be clear once I catch you. Linan sneered in his heart. He was already flying towards the Thunderclap Extreme Ground. He had never seen Murongyu before. He did not know him at all. However, with his status, it was too easy for him to get information about an Outer Sect disciple. Not long after, he received a message from Murongyu. Murongyu's portrait was clearly displayed in front of him. At this time, Murongyu still didn't know that he had been targeted by Linan. Although his ability to deduce the mysteries of the heavens had reached a certain level of maturity, it was still not enough. However, Linan was much stronger than him, and he could deduce that. However, a few days later, Murongyu also felt that something was wrong. There was always a faint sense of danger in the bottom of his heart. Could there be danger in the Thunderclap Extreme Ground? Murongyu muttered in a low voice. There's definitely danger. There are so many people in such a terrifying place. so how could there be no danger? The large black dog said listlessly as he followed beside Muronyu. Originally, it was very excited to follow them, but it was not suitable for a low-key life like this. Muronyu felt that this was reasonable, so he didn't pay any more attention to it. But after a few days, his sense of danger grew stronger and stronger. It even filled his entire heart. There's still a long distance to the Thunderclap Extreme Ground. The sense of danger definitely doesn't come from the Thunderclap Extreme Ground, Muronyu said with a slight frown. He seemed to have vaguely grasped something, but in the end, he couldn't grasp anything. Could it be that Yi Tian's master has chased after us? Kid, didn't you take care of everything back then? Why are you still being chased after? The large black dog continued to speak listlessly. However, its words gave Muronyu a flash of inspiration. He had this idea just now, but he didn't grasp it at that moment. That's right, it must be Yi Tian's master who has chased after us. However, didn't he disturb the space-time of that world? How did he know that I killed Yi Tian? However, Muronyu hadn't had any in-depth contact with a Creation Realm cultivator, so he didn't know if a Creation Realm cultivator had any great magical power that could restore everything at that time. If that was the case, then it would be dangerous. It was one thing for Muronyu to be able to block the forbidden weapon made by Li Nan, but it was another thing for him to block Li Nan's attack. At the very most, he couldn't even block a first-stage Creation Realm cultivator. We have to hurry to the Thunderclap Extreme Ground. Large black dog, let's go. At this moment, the sense of danger in Murongyu's heart soared. At the same time that his expression changed, he had already grabbed the large black dog and was about to fly forward. You don't have to go anywhere. Stay here forever. At this moment, a sinister voice suddenly came from behind. Then, Muronyu realized that the world suddenly darkened, as if night had suddenly fallen. It wasn't that night had suddenly fallen, but a huge hand that covered the sky and covered the earth, slapping towards Muronyu. An extremely strong sense of death surged in Murongyu's heart. He didn't need to look to know that the person who attacked him was definitely a supreme existence of the Creation Realm. Moreover, it should be Yi Tian's master, Li Nan. How did this old bastard catch up so quickly? Muronyu felt a headache and was about to shove the large black dog into the Hichu Luo shoe. However, something even more painful happened. He couldn't shove the large black dog into the Hichu Luo shoe. This space-time had been sealed by Li Nan, and he couldn't enter the treasure space. He could only take out inanimate objects from the treasure space, as expected of a supreme existence at the manifestation realm. Once he made a move, he was able to take care of everything. Of course, this wasn't a good thing for Muronyu. What Muronyu didn't know was that Li Nan might not have sealed this space-time. He might not have been so considerate. It was just that a Creation Realm powerhouse's attack contained the power of time and space. The huge hand was extremely fast, and it would soon grab him. Muronyu didn't hesitate at all. He grabbed the large black dog with one hand and used his fastest speed to shoot forward. It was impossible to travel through space-time, so he could only fly normally. However, Murongyu's normal flying speed wasn't slow either. However, Li Nan was 2 realms higher than him, so he was faster. The instant Murongyu's figure moved, his large hand had already reached out to grab Muronyu. Break from me! Muronyu roared in his heart. The weapon fragment had already slashed forward with a terrifying power that could destroy heaven and earth. Bang! The weapon fragment was indestructible, and its power was terrifying. However, Murongyu's strength was still too weak in the end. When the weapon fragment bombarded Li Nan's huge hand, it only made Li Nan's huge hand shake violently. It couldn't cut it at all. Muronyu couldn't help but put away the weapon fragment gloomily. At this stage, other than the profound thunder bead, the power that erupted from the weapon fragment was the most terrifying. However, it was like an ant trying to shake a tree. If the Black Thunder Pearl could unleash its full power, it could kill Li Nan. However, Muronyu didn't know what kind of abilities a Creation Realm powerhouse had, so he wasn't very confident. He would only use the Black Thunder Pearl to kill Li Nan when he was at least 80 to 90% confident. As for the forbidden weapon from Yi Tian, don't joke around. That forbidden weapon was made by Li Nan. If he used it now, wouldn't it be telling Li Nan that he was the one who killed Yi Tian? It was a fact that he killed Yi Tian, but he definitely wouldn't admit it. At least at this stage, he wouldn't admit it. Thus, Morongyu stopped attacking. In the end, he was directly caught by the huge hand. You're Morongyu? You're the one who killed Yi Tian? Morongyu was caught and brought in front of Li Nan. Meanwhile, Li Nan looked at Morongyu as if he was looking at a dead man. His voice was cold and emotionless. Yi Tian? You must be joking. Do you think I'm strong enough to kill Yi Tian? You must be Yi Tian's master, Elder Li Nan, right? Morongyu looked at Li Nan and said calmly, You're not strong enough to kill Yi Tian, but you might be able to kill him. Li Nan looked at Morongyu indifferently. He had seen Morongyu's previous attack, and he was a little excited about the power of the weapon fragment. Whether it's you or not, I'll know once I read your memories. As he spoke, Li Nan's enormous divine sense rushed into Morongyu's soul space. Murong, you didn't even have time to resist. Oh, it really wasn't you? After a while, Li Nan's divine sense retreated from Morongyu's soul space, a look of confusion on his face. From Morongyu's memories, he saw that after Morongyu left the Sun Sect, he had been hurrying on his way and hadn't met Yi Tian at all. Of course, Li Nan also took the opportunity to read Morongyu's memories. He didn't find anything special about Morongyu's memories. He was just a genius from an ordinary family in the martial heaven realm. When Li Nan read Morongyu's memories, Morongyu's expression turned sluggish. But as soon as Li Nan's divine sense retreated from his soul space, he reacted. Then he flew into a rage. Martial uncle, you actually read my memories without my permission. This is not allowed in the Sun Sect. How can you do this? Morongyu's memories were too. Li Nan had a feeling that something was wrong. But what was wrong? He didn't know. When he heard Morongyu's question, a cold glint involuntarily flashed across his eyes. So what if I read your memories? Even if I kill you, it'll be no different from stepping on an ant. In the Sun Sect, it doesn't matter even if people like you all die, Li Nan said indifferently, his killing intent surging. Although Yi Tian wasn't killed by Morongyu, didn't Morongyu have a grudge with Yi Tian? Since that was the case, he might as well kill him and bury him with Yi Tian. Thus, Li Nan's killing intent soared. You old bastard, in the end you still want to kill me. Morongyu couldn't help but curse inwardly. Since that's the case, I'll send you to meet your disciples. Morongyu's heart hardened. Unknowingly, the profound lightning pearl was already in his hand. Elder Li Nan, you want to kill me? Morongyu couldn't help but ask. Perhaps killing Yi Tian wasn't a big deal, but killing a second-rank elder of the Sun Sect was a big deal. Morongyu didn't know if the Sun Sect would be shaken by this, and send an even stronger elder to investigate this matter. The Sun Sect was full of talents and experts. He didn't know if anyone had the means to investigate this matter. Thus, he didn't want to kill Li Nan right now. Chapter 1942. Killing you is as easy as squashing an ant. Li Nan said calmly. Morongyu's face darkened. I have Elder Broken Soul's token. I will become his disciple in the future. Li Nan looked at Morongyu with an amused expression. Kid, are you threatening me with Broken Soul? So what if Broken Soul is higher than me? You will still die. If I want to kill you, even if the sect leader comes personally, you will still die. Morongyu's heart sank. He found that Li Nan's expression was resolute. He wasn't bragging. All right, even if he was bragging, Morongyu could tell that Li Nan's identity wasn't simple. What a tragedy. Is this guy trying to compete with me in terms of father? There's a terrifying father behind him. Really, after beating the young, the old will come out. When will this end? Morongyu helplessly screamed in his heart. What Morongyu didn't know was that his guess was right. Are you determined to kill me? But I have no grudge with Yi Tian. As an elder of the Sun Sect, how can you be like this? Morongyu unwillingly roared. Li Nan's eyes flashed with a cold, killing intent. He squeezed his big hand and was about to crush Morongyu. But at this moment, he suddenly saw Morongyu's mocking smile. Li Nan was stunned. This guy was about to die. How could he still be like this? Could it be that this wasn't his real body, but his clone? Or did he have some other trump card? Elderly Nan, what is this? Murong looked at Li Nan with a mocking expression. At the same time, he suddenly opened his tightly clenched hands. In his right hand was a fist-sized object flashing with lightning. It was the black lightning orb. In Murong Yu's left hand was a talisman. So what if it wasn't Yi Tian's forbidden weapon? The moment he saw the talisman, Li Nan immediately reacted. This was the talisman he made. It should have been on Yi Tian. It was this little bastard who killed Yi Tian. Li Nan's eyes instantly turned red from anger. This was because he had read Murong Yu's memories, but there was no such talisman in Murong Yu's memories. In other words, Murong Yu's memories were fake. However, how could a person's memory be fake? But his soul was real. Furthermore, he had acted so quickly that Murong Yu had no time to fabricate a fake memory. Moreover, Murong Yu's soul did not have any traces of a seal. While he was in a daze, Murong Yu twisted his body and broke free from his control. At the same time, Murong Yu had already detonated the profound thunder bead and talisman. Boom! Boom! Originally, the explosive power of the forbidden weapon was equivalent to Li Nan's full force attack, and the Dark Thunder Pearl's attack had far surpassed the second stage of the creation realm. Thus, Li Nan reacted in time and took out all kinds of treasures to protect himself. At the same time, he immediately escaped. However, it was already too late. When the explosion disappeared, apart from the ruins, there was only the profound lightning bead and the forbidden artifact that had become even dimmer. As for Li Nan, there was nothing left of him at all. Cough, cough. A dry cough was heard, and then Murong Yu shot out from the depths of the ground. However, he was in a very sorry state at this moment. His clothes were torn into rags, and his body was stained with blood. Although the forbidden weapon's power could not hit him, the Dark Thunder Pearl's attack did not differentiate between friend and foe. However, fortunately, Murong Yu had the Hichu Luo Shu. The moment he detonated the Hichu Luo Shu, he rushed into the Hichu Luo Shu. This was because before this, the space-time here had been confined, and he could not enter the Hichu Luo Shu. Therefore, he could only enter the Hichu Luo Shu after detonating the Dark Thunder Pearl and the forbidden weapon. Then, he immediately teleported and was about to leave. However, although the Hichu Luoshu's teleportation speed was fast, it was not as fast as the explosion. Therefore, the Hichu Luoshu had only teleported a short distance before it was blasted out of the void by the terrifying explosion. Fortunately, he had already rushed out for a distance, and the power of the explosion had weakened a lot. After being weakened by the Hichu Luoshu, Murong Yu barely withstood the overflowing damage. However, the overflowing damage almost shattered his physical body. After quickly recovering his physical injuries in the Hichu Luoshu, Murong Yu came out. He reached out and grabbed the forbidden weapon talisman, which he only had one chance to use, and threw it directly into the Hichu Luoshu. Forbidden weapons were like this. Once they reached the limit of the number of uses, they would shatter. There was nothing to see at all. At this moment, Murong Yu was looking at the Dark Thunder Pearl in his hand with a worried expression. Originally, the Dark Thunder Pearl had already been severely damaged, and it was surrounded by spiderweb-like cracks. At that time, although the power of thunder and lightning in the Dark Thunder Pearl was not much, it could still be used once or twice. But now, Murong Yu clearly saw that the cracks on the surface of the Dark Thunder Pearl had become bigger and more numerous. It looked like it would shatter at any time. The power of thunder and lightning was almost gone. Previously, the Dark Thunder Pearl was flashing with the power of thunder and lightning. But now, after a few breaths, a flash of lightning could be seen on the surface of the Dark Thunder Pearl. One could imagine how much thunder and lightning the Dark Thunder Pearl had consumed this time. Murong Yu estimated that the thunder and lightning in the Dark Thunder Pearl could only be used one more time. Moreover, after it was used, the Dark Thunder Pearl would completely shatter into thousands of pieces. Li Nan, that old bastard. Murong Yu gritted his teeth and cursed Li Nan, who was already dead. If not for him, he would not have wasted such an opportunity. He had used the Dark Thunder Pearl to attack, and only killed a level 2 creation realm cultivator. It was too wasteful. Moreover, he had added a chance to use the forbidden weapon. It was like using a butcher's knife to kill a chicken. If Li Nan knew what Murong was thinking now, would he be so angry that he would come back to life? He had died with grievances. He was a level 2 elder of the Sun Sect and had many treasures on him. But he had been killed by Murong just like that. Most importantly, he had killed the forbidden weapon that he had personally made. This was the reason why he had died with grievances. In fact, as a level 2 elder, it was basically impossible for Murong to kill Li Nan if he wanted to. But who asked him to look down on Murong? He had thought that after capturing Murong would not be able to do anything. In fact, if Murong was an ordinary level 9 chaotic space realm cultivator, he would not be able to do anything. But he was not. Moreover, Murong had purposely gotten close to him. If Murong had detonated the forbidden weapon and the Dark Thunder Pearl at the beginning, he might have been able to severely injure Li Nan, who had been caught off guard. But in the end, Li Nan would have been killed by Murong, and Li Nan would not have been killed. However, Murong had seized the opportunity to detonate the Dark Thunder Pearl and the forbidden weapon beside Li Nan when he was unprepared. At such a close distance, even if Li Nan had reacted in time, he would not have been able to escape. In the end, he was still killed by Murong. Of course, if he had not wasted so much time talking to Murong and killed Murong with one blow, perhaps the one who would have died would be Murong. Old bastard, you better leave something behind after you die. Otherwise, I will not let you go even if you die. Murong cursed as he stretched out his hand and grabbed at the ground that had turned into ruins. Swoosh! A yuan tool flickering with a terrifying aura shot out from the depths of the ground and was caught by Murong. This is a high-grade creation origin tool. Murong's eyes lit up. If this origin tool was only a low-grade creation origin tool, it would have been destroyed by the Dark Thunder Pearl's power of thunder and lightning. He is only a second-grade elder, but he has a high-grade creation origin tool. It seems that Li Nan has a good father. Murong muttered to himself as he continued to grab at the origin tool. Not long after, another ray of light was grabbed by Murong. This was Li Nan's space treasure, which should be a high-grade item. How could it be so simple to block the Dark Thunder Pearl's attack? Since Li Nan was already dead, his space treasure was in an ownerless state, so Murong's divine thought could easily enter it. In the next moment, Murong was stunned. Is this guy really just a second-grade elder of the Sun Sect? The value of these treasures is less than a billionth of the total value of the 6 great forces. Murong sighed. In Li Nan's space treasure, there were hundreds of creation realm origin weapons, and not many of them were low-level creation realm origin weapons. In addition, there were a large number of elixirs and various treasures. Even a creation realm cultivator would be jealous of these items. Even a 5th-grade elder would not have such terrifying wealth, let alone a 2nd-grade elder. Could this guy's father be the Sun Sect's leader? Murong suddenly felt uneasy. Azure True Thunder Technique? Murong's divine thought suddenly found an old paper book in Li Nan's space treasure. It was a battle technique book. Murong casually flipped through it, and his face lit up. This was a lightning battle technique book, which was at least a top-grade creation realm battle technique. It was even stronger than the alien flame incineration he had previously obtained. Murong estimated that if he used this battle technique with the power of lightning, his battle strength would increase by a small level. In other words, if Li Nan used this battle technique, he would at least have the battle strength of a 3rd-grade creation realm battle technique. Fortunately, Li Nan did not have time to use it before he reported to the Yellow Springs. Otherwise, it would be hard to tell who would win. That old bastard finally did something good. Although he almost broke the profound thunder bead, he still managed to do something good. Although he almost shattered the lightning ball, the treasures in his storage ring, even the 5th-grade elders of the Sun Sect would be jealous of him. As he spoke, Murong had already put these items into the Hichu Luo Shu and disturbed the space-time of this world. When he thought of Li Nan chasing after him, Murong even went as far as to go back, wiping out all traces of him along the way. Then, he headed for the Thunderclap Extreme Land. However, along the way, he had silently changed his appearance and even his soul aura. If he did so, even if someone followed him, they would not be able to find him. Chapter 1943. Murong Yu, who was heading towards the Thunderclap Extreme grounds, didn't know that the Sun Sect was in an uproar because of Li Nan's death. When Li Nan's soul jade slip shattered, all of the Sun Sect's elders were shocked. Li Nan and his disciple were usually arrogant and despotic. Many of the Sun Sect's elders didn't like them. Some of them even wanted them dead. However, no one dared to actually put this idea into action. Li Nan had a powerful father, the 8th rank elder of the Sun Sect, Li Jiang. In the Sun Sect, there were 9th rank creation realm cultivators. However, they could be counted on 2 hands. Apart from the Sun Sect's leader, there were only a limited number of 9th rank creation realm cultivators. 8th rank creation realm elders were the strongest. Moreover, the Sun Sect didn't have that many 8th rank creation realm elders. Each and every one of the elders was a figure with real power and control an extremely large amount of power. Li Jiang was one such 8th rank creation realm elder. Moreover, Li Jiang and Li Nan were father and son after all. They were both bastards. However, as an 8th rank creation realm elder, Li Jiang's strength and influence were at the peak of the Sun Sect. Thus, he hadn't done anything in the past few years. Most of his time was spent on cultivation, trying to break through to a higher realm. Li Nan is dead? He only left the Sun Sect a few days ago. How'd he die? The Sun Sect was in an uproar because of Li Nan's death. Who doesn't know about Li Nan's background in the Sun Sect? Who would dare touch him? Even the other 8th rank creation realm elders wouldn't kill Li Nan. After all, he's Li Jiang's son. But if it wasn't one of us, who would dare to kill Li Nan in front of our eyes? Could it be the Lunar Sect? An elder asked in a low voice. The other elders nodded in agreement. They immediately attributed Li Nan's death to the Lunar Sect or the Sunflame Sect. Only those who dared to oppose the Sun Sect would dare to kill one of their own. Otherwise, who would dare to kill a member of the Solar Sun Sect under their protection? Even if they were stronger than Li Nan, they wouldn't dare. As for Murong Yu, what a joke. Even if Li Nan stood there and allowed Murong Yu to kill him, no one believed that Murong Yu could kill Li Nan. Moreover, no one knew about the relationship between Li Nan and Murong Yu. Investigate. You must investigate this matter thoroughly. If it's the Lunar Sect, we'll definitely teach them a lesson. The Solar Sect was shaken, and they began to investigate this matter. Of course, those who did the investigation were all on Li Jiang's side, or elders who wanted to curry favor with Li Jiang. As for the other factions, they were happy. No one did anything to investigate the matter. Of course, if they found out Li Nan's sex. After all, they were all part of the Solar Sect. Infighting was fine, but they couldn't allow other factions to ride on their heads. A's Lees. STS Heart, Estes. On the way, Murong Yu began to cultivate the Azure True lightning art. This cultivation technique was extremely powerful. Even with Murong Yu's current strength, he could barely cultivate the first style, Heavenly Lightning Strike. Furthermore, this was due to Murong Yu's natural affinity with lightning. Back in the mortal world, Murong Yu had received special treatment from heavenly tribulations. Every time he broke through a new realm, he would face a heavenly tribulation. This process continued all the way to the holy world. However, after he passed through reincarnation and entered the rebirth realm, he didn't have to deal with any more tribulations. Murong Yu had never heard of heavenly tribulations after the rebirth realm. It seemed like heavenly tribulations only occurred in the holy world. However, lightning-type attacks were still the most violent of all. They were even more terrifying than fire-type attacks. Murong Yu had only successfully cultivated the first style of the Azure True lightning art, but he had already discovered how frightening the might of the Heavenly Lightning Strike was. At the same cultivation level, if one was struck by the Heavenly Lightning Strike, even if one didn't die, they would lose a layer of skin. Furthermore, the lightning strike had a paralyzing effect. Once he was paralyzed, even if it was only for a tenth of an instant, it was enough for his opponent to kill him 1,000 times over. In the following days, Muronyu saw the sun sect making a big move. They covered the sky and covered the earth in search of Li Nan's murderer. In a single night, the news of Li Nan's death spread throughout the Sun Sect's territory. Li Nan's father is an 8th rank elder of the Sun Sect. Muronyu was stunned when he heard the news. His first thought was to never return to the Sun Sect again. He'd run as far away as he could, or join the Lunar Sect. It wasn't that Muronyu was afraid of death, but rather that an 8th rank elder was too terrifying. He was 2 whole realms below Muronyu. More importantly, his opponent was a high-ranking member of the Sun Sect, while he was only an outer disciple. Whether in terms of status or strength, Muronyu was no match for him. However, Muronyu quickly tossed that absurd thought to the back of his mind, putting aside whether or not Li Jiang knew Li Nan had been killed. So what if he knew? The stronger the enemy, the greater the pressure on Muronyu. Only with pressure would there be motivation. Otherwise, Muronyu wouldn't have felt any sense of urgency if he had been living a comfortable life. Without a sense of urgency, the speed at which he grew stronger would naturally slow down. With a mountain like Li Jiang weighing down on him, Muronyu had no choice but to quickly grow stronger. Otherwise, he wouldn't be afraid of being slapped to death by Li Jiang. Moreover, what made Muronyu slightly relieved was that Li Jiang was still in seclusion, so he probably didn't know about Li Nan's death. This gave Muronyu time to grow stronger. Moreover, if Muronyu succeeded in capturing the lightning spirit this time, he would be able to become the disciple of another 8th level elder. In this way, even if Li Jiang knew that he was the one who killed Li Nan, he wouldn't dare to directly attack. As long as Li Jiang didn't personally attack, Muronyu wouldn't be afraid at all. In fact, those people would even become Murongyu's stepping stones. However, even with that thought, Muronyu still felt a little uneasy. Just like that, Muronyu finally arrived in front of the Thunderclap Extreme Ground with a nervous heart. However, when he arrived at the Thunderclap Extreme Ground, he was shocked. Cultivators, a lot of cultivators. Cultivators covered the entire mountain. Some of them were wearing the clothes of the Sun Sect, so they should be disciples of the Sun Sect. However, most of them weren't disciples of the Sun Sect. Are all these people here to capture the lightning spirit? Murongyu's face was a little gloomy. It wasn't because there were too many people, but because many of them were in the creation realm. There were people in the creation realm who were in the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th stages. Were all these people here to capture the lightning spirit? Regardless of whether there was a lightning spirit or not, even if there was, they wouldn't be able to get the favor of the 8th level elder of the Sun Sect. However, Muronyu soon knew what was going on. These people weren't all here for the lightning spirit. Their goal was the cave abode in the Thunderclap Extreme Ground. Legend had it that there was a cave abode in the depths of the Thunderclap Extreme Ground. It was built by a mighty person who had surpassed the creation realm a long time ago. Later on, for some unknown reason, the mighty person suddenly died and left behind his cave abode. However, his cave abode had always been in a sealed state, and no one knew where it was. However, not long ago, there was news that the mighty person's cave abode was going to appear soon. Is it really so coincidental? They just released the mission of capturing the lightning spirit, and an ancient mighty person's cave abode appeared here. Muronyu vaguely felt that something was wrong. If there really was a cave abode of a mighty person who had surpassed the creation realm, why didn't any high-level creation realm powerhouses appear? If that was the case, the Sun Sect leader would probably come here to kill him. After all, who didn't want to surpass the creation realm? Many people thought that the creation realm was the limit of cultivation. However, Muronyu was sure that there was definitely another realm. Muronyu wasn't sure about the other realms, but at least there was still a chaos controller. Could this be a scheme? A thought suddenly flashed through Muronyu's head. However, he quickly rejected it. How could there be so many conspiracies in this world? Moreover, why would they encounter him every time there was conspiracy? The power of the lightning in the Thunderclap Extreme Ground was much more terrifying than the Black Thunder Mountain. Therefore, those cultivators below the Bright World realm didn't dare to come close. This made many Outer Sect disciples of the Sun Sect, who had gone through untold hardships to come here, sigh and groan, unwilling to give up. Moreover, even if a Bright World realm powerhouse went in, it would be dangerous. Therefore, Muronyu saw that there were people all over the mountain, and these people didn't dare to go in. However, in fact, there were already quite a lot of people who had entered the Thunderclap Extreme Ground. Muronyu didn't hesitate and rushed toward the Thunderclap Extreme Ground. Whoosh! However, before he could enter, he was already blocked by a figure. Muronyu's face sank. Just as he was about to speak, the other party spoke first. "I say, brother, are you trying to court death? The lightning in the Thunderclap Extreme Ground is very terrifying, and those below the Bright World realm will definitely die. I advise you not to go in." Muronyu was stunned. Was this the reason why this person had stopped him? Therefore, he looked over. He saw that the person who stopped him was a handsome young man who was looking at Muronyu with a worried gaze. "I'm not seeking death. I cultivate a lightning-type cultivation technique, so I have a certain immunity to lightning. Moreover, I'm not going deep into the Thunderclap Extreme Ground," Muronyu said with a smile. The other party had good intentions, so he couldn't treat him coldly. The young man shook his head. "You still don't know how terrifying the Thunderclap Extreme Ground is, right? It's not an ordinary Thunderclap Extreme Ground. What's terrifying here isn't just the lightning, but also the sound of thunder. Even a Bright World realm powerhouse would become an idiot and die in the Thunderclap Extreme Ground." Chapter 1944. After saying this, the young man looked at Muronyu with a calm gaze, as if he thought that Muronyu wouldn't go in after he said this. Muronyu looked at the handsome young man with an amused gaze. "I have a question for you." The young man nodded slightly. "Do you stop everyone who wants to enter the Thunderclap Extreme Ground and then advise them not to go in? Are you worried that they'll die in there, or are you plotting something?" The young man looked at Muronyu with a calm gaze and said righteously, "I'm definitely not plotting anything. Isn't the reason why I'm advising you for your own good? I just don't want to increase the number of resentful souls in the Thunderclap Extreme Ground. If you don't believe me, you can go in. I won't stop you anymore." Before he finished speaking, the young man had already moved out of the way, no longer blocking Muronyu's path. However, he still looked at Muronyu with a calm and confident gaze. He felt that Muronyu definitely wouldn't enter the Thunderclap Extreme Ground again. However, just as he moved out of the way, his vision blurred. In the next moment, Muronyu had already disappeared. The young man was shocked. He turned around and saw Muronyu's figure disappear into the lightning. The young man was instantly thrown into disarray after entering the lightning. Muronyu shook his head. With his ability to judge people, he felt that the young man wasn't plotting anything. He was just trying to persuade others not to go in. Nice guy. This kind of person was basically dead in this world. This young man. Muronyu shook his head and ignored him. After all, they were just strangers who had met by chance. Everyone had their own way of life. Dong, dong, dong. At this moment, a drum-like sound suddenly appeared out of nowhere. Then, it drilled into Muronyu's ears and rushed straight into his soul. Muronyu's soul sphere immediately reacted. The soul sphere trembled slightly, and the drum-like sound that had entered his soul was shattered. However, Muronyu's face was still filled with shock. Even though the soul sphere had shattered the thunderous sound in time, his soul still felt dizzy. Although it was extremely faint, one had to know that he was a soul cultivator. Moreover, his soul had already reached the peak of the rebirth state. Muronyu believed that even if the soul sphere didn't react and shatter the sound of thunder, the soul sphere wouldn't be able to do anything. However, the sound of thunder was unable to harm his soul. At most, the dizziness would be more severe. However, there was a problem. He was a soul cultivator, and his soul had reached the peak of the rebirth realm. If that was the case, what about the others? Wouldn't his soul be shattered the moment he entered this place? Muron finally understood why there were so many people lingering outside and not coming in. These sounds of thunder were truly too terrifying. Just as the young man had said, anyone below the Bright World Realm would have their soul shattered. As for why a Bright World Realm cultivator would be turned into an idiot, Muron was still a little confused. However, what surprised Muron was that after the first sound of thunder, he didn't suffer a second sound of thunder attack. It seemed that the sound of thunder attack was gone. However, Muron believed that it was absolutely impossible. If that was the case, many people would have already entered. Then, another possibility was that the sound of thunder attack here wasn't continuous, but intermittent. This is a little challenging. Muron smiled faintly and was about to continue moving forward. He definitely couldn't repair the black thunder pearl here. Otherwise, he would be easily discovered. However, just as Muron was about to continue moving forward, a figure had already rushed over from behind. If it was someone else, Muron wouldn't have bothered at all. However, the person who rushed in was actually the young man who had stopped Muron previously. Brother, you haven't gone in yet? Then hurry up and get out. The sound of thunder here is really terrifying. After the young man came in and saw Muron, he rushed up excitedly. This made Muron speechless. You came in specially to persuade me to get out? If that's the case, you can give up. After saying that, Muron walked away, no longer paying any attention to the youth. However, what made him speechless was that the young man followed him again. You're not afraid of death? Muron asked speechlessly. The young man hurriedly nodded but quickly said, although I'm afraid of death, how can I watch you die? I feel that we hit it off the moment we met. I'm definitely going to be friends with you. As a friend, how can I let you die? Therefore, I must be by your side to protect you. Looking at the righteous young man, Muron was speechless. Don't tell me you want to kill me and steal my treasure? Muron asked again. The young man's face suddenly changed and his eyes flashed with displeasure. Brother, you're wrong. How can I, Dongfang Haoran, be that kind of person? In the Flying Wolf Star area, who doesn't know that I, Dongfang Haoran, am a good person? Good character, good aptitude, good everything. Being friends with me, you definitely won't be cheated. Muron couldn't help but spit out. This guy's name really wasn't wrong. Haoran, good person. Dongfang, good person. Flying Wolf Star, Dongfang Haoran. You're a disciple of the Dongfang family? Muron looked at Dongfang Haoran with a strange gaze. The Dongfang family was one of the 10 major powers in the solar system outside of the Sun Sect and Lunar Sect. And the Flying Wolf Star was the headquarters of the Dongfang family. It was because of this that Muron guessed that Dongfang Haoran was from the Dongfang family and was a disciple of the Dongfang family. What made him feel strange was that the Dongfang family and the Sun Flame sect were polar opposites, and there was usually friction between the two powers. What was he doing in the Sun Flame sect's territory? Looking for a beating? Dongfang Haoran immediately nodded and admitted his identity. However, his face was gloomy and bitter. This guy shouldn't be doing well in the Dongfang family, right? Muron thought in his heart. Another disciple of a big family in dire straits. To be honest, I'm here to complete a mission for my family. If I can't complete the mission, I'll be kicked out of the family or even killed. But this mission is almost impossible to complete, Dongfang Haoran said in a disheartened manner. Seeing that this guy's expression didn't seem to be fake, Muron thought of the disciple he received. He was manipulated by Yi Tian and received an impossible mission. This guy wouldn't be the same, right? You've been framed, right? With your aptitude, you can definitely leave the Dongfang family and cultivate to the manifestation realm or even surpass it. You don't need to throw away your life for this mission. Muron said indifferently. Dongfang Haoran shook his head. You don't understand. I have to do this mission, and I have to complete it. To be honest, it was only after seeing you that I made up my mind to come here. You're the first person I've met to come here without hesitation. Others, even manifestation realm cultivators, would hesitate after coming here, but you didn't hesitate at all. So you're emboldened because of this? Then you came in? Muron felt quite speechless. The reason why he didn't hesitate was because he wasn't afraid of the thunderclap extreme ground. At least, he wouldn't be in any danger outside of the Thunderclap Extreme Ground. Moreover, he had to go deep into the Thunderclap Extreme Ground to repair the profound Thunder Bead. Are you sure? Dongfang Haoran shook his head. My father left me a lightning attributed manifestation realm origin tool. It's enough to protect my life. If it's not, I won't throw away my life. Saying this, Dongfang Haoran smiled, and his face regained its calm. Good. Then let's go on an adventure together. Moronyu laughed and turned to leave. He didn't know if it was because Dongfang Haoran's experience was very similar to his, or because he felt that he wouldn't misjudge Dongfang Haoran, but Moronyu didn't reject him and took the initiative to invite him in. In the following time, Moronyu also told Dongfang Haoran his identity. However, he didn't restore his soul aura. That would only be bad for Dongfang Haoran and not good for him. Moronyu also knew about Dongfang Haoran's mission, to find the Thunderclap drum in the Thunderclap Extreme Ground. Then Dongfang Haoran could become a core disciple of the Dongfang family. The core disciples of the Dongfang family were the same as the inner disciples of the Sun sect. But their status was higher and their power was greater. Dongfang Haoran's situation in the Dongfang family was more dangerous than Moronyu imagined. If Dongfang Haoran couldn't complete this mission, he would die without a doubt. Originally, he didn't want to accept this mission. But if he couldn't become a core disciple of the Dongfang family, he would be insignificant in the Dongfang family and would be easily obliterated by his enemies. After becoming an inner disciple, his enemies would have some scruples and wouldn't dare to act brazenly. But it was still dangerous. Strength was the most important method to protect one's life. As long as Dongfang Haoran became an elder, and a high-ranking elder, who would dare to touch him? But with Dongfang Haoran's previous treatment in the Dongfang family, those pitiful resources couldn't increase his strength by much, even if his aptitude was heaven-defying. Therefore, Dongfang Haoran had just reached the first level of the Bright World realm. According to Morongyu's guess, even if Dongfang Haoran's aptitude wasn't as good as Zhao Jiqing and the others, it wasn't much worse. One had to know that although Zhao Jiqing and the others' aptitudes weren't as good as Morongyu's, they were still top geniuses. If Dongfang Haoran was a disciple that the Dongfang family focused on cultivating, even if he hadn't reached the creation realm, he would have definitely reached the half-step creation realm. But this guy was only in the Bright World realm. One could imagine how bad this guy's situation was. His situation was so bad, but this guy still acted like a good person and lived so optimistically. This guy's mentality was full of positive energy. However, Moronyu also had a headache for Dongfang Haoran. Because the Thunderclap drum was a legendary item, whether it actually existed or not was still a problem. His mission was even more ridiculous than Morongyu's mission to become an inner disciple. But people without a backer were like this. Even if it was an impossible mission would be carried by Dongfang Haoran, and he had to complete it. His character was simply too weak. Dong, dong, dong. While they were talking, the second thunderclap attack came. Chapter 1945. Buzz. The moment the thunder attack came, Dongfang Haoran's body trembled slightly. A bolt of lightning escaped from his body and enveloped his entire body. At the same time, a stream of light shot out from his body and formed a pagoda-shaped origin tool above his head. This was a 3-story pagoda. It was purple in color and emitted purple lightning. This should be the lightning origin tool that Dongfang Haoran's father left for him. As soon as this origin tool appeared, it enveloped Dongfang Haoran's entire body. Although the thunder attack came, Dongfang Haoran was only stunned for a moment. However, he quickly reacted. He wasn't hurt at all, at least not on the surface. At the same time, Dongfang Haoran looked at Morongyu. When he saw it, his expression changed drastically. After being struck by the sound of thunder, Morongyu stood there in a daze. He didn't move an inch, and even the expression on his face had frozen. Could it be that his consciousness was erased by the thunder? Dongfang Haoran had this thought in his mind. He then reached out his hand to shake Morongyu. But in the end, his large hand still stopped halfway. If Morong was fighting against the thunder, what if his action caused Morong to fail? Therefore, Dongfang Haoran decided to wait for Morong to wake up. If he didn't wake up, then there was no other way. His consciousness would be erased by the thunder. Then, what was Morong doing at this time? Was it really like what Dongfang Haoran thought? Of course not. Although the thunder attack this time was a bit stronger than the first time. But with Morong's soul strength, it still couldn't hurt him. However, this time, Morong deliberately let the thunder attack hit his soul. At this time, he was surprised to find that after the thunder rushed into his soul, it began to shake violently. And after the shaking power met Morong's consciousness, Morong's consciousness was erased. So that's how it is. The sound of thunder doesn't directly erase the soul and body. It doesn't even harm a body. It only erases a person's consciousness. But if he lost his consciousness, how could he resist the attacks of the surrounding lightning? I'm afraid he'll be killed immediately. Morong was wondering why Dongfang Haoran would say that even bright world realm cultivators would be turned into idiots by the sound of thunder. So that's how it was. After understanding thundering sounds attack, Morong's soul sphere shook slightly and shattered thundering sounds attack. As for his erased consciousness, it was insignificant and was quickly restored by him. Thus, he woke up. In fact, Morong wasn't really in a daze. Although he was studying the sound of thunder, his physical body was still normal. He was just putting on an act for Dongfang Haoran to see. At the same time, he also wanted to test Dongfang Haoran. However, Dongfang Haoran did not disappoint him. He was bold but careful, and he didn't kill for money. This was a friend worth making. Of course, Morong already felt that Dongfang Haoran wasn't bad. After all, with his current ability to see people, he wouldn't be wrong, especially when the difference in cultivation realm wasn't too big. Morong, what happened just now? You really blocked the sound of thunder? Seeing Morong wake up, Dongfang Haoran quickly asked, his eyes full of worry. Morong shook his head. It's nothing, I just accidentally got hit. Let's continue. As he spoke, he was about to take a step forward, but Dongfang Haoran was already in front of him. I think we should go out. This is only the periphery of the thunderous extreme ground. The frequency of thunder attacks is low and the power is weak. But the deeper we go, the higher the frequency of thunder attacks and the more terrifying the power. Dongfang Haoran said with a dignified expression. Morong smiled faintly. You should take care of yourself first. I have no problem at all. Dongfang Haoran sighed helplessly and caught up. I'll take out a treasure. You should enter the range of my treasure. That way, you can offset a portion of the thunder attacks. Morong smiled. This guy was really good. But Morong didn't think that his good fortune stage origin artifact ability to block thunder attacks was stronger than his soul attack. However, in order to not let Dongfang Haoran worry, he also took out the profound thunder bead. I also have a thunder-type treasure. I just didn't take it out before. Don't worry. Morong said with a smile. But he saw Dongfang Haoran looking at the profound thunder bead floating above his head in a daze. What's going on? Morong felt a bit inconceivable and raised his head to look. He couldn't help but feel depressed when he saw this. At this moment, the profound thunder bead exploded with a dazzling light. Waves after waves of terrifying suction force were continuously emitted from within the mysterious lightning bead. The surrounding thunder and lightning surged into the profound thunder bead uncontrollably like a tide and was actually being absorbed. When Morong looked at it, the thunder and lightning around him had already swarmed over like a storm. Looking from afar, a huge whirlpool appeared around Morong and Dongfang Haoran. This whirlpool was getting bigger and bigger, and more thunder and lightning energy crazily surged over. In the end, it was all swallowed by the profound thunder bead. In just a short period of time, Morong clearly felt that the profound thunder bead's injuries were slowly recovering. It could be repaired so easily. After discovering this, Morong couldn't help but feel overjoyed. If this continued, it wouldn't be impossible to completely repair the profound thunder bead. However, the current movement was a bit too big, it would easily attract the attention of others, and they might even try to rob it. Murong-Yu wasn't afraid of cultivators below the creation realm, but he was afraid of cultivators in the creation realm. Although the forbidden weapon he got from Yi Tian could still be used once, the power of the forbidden weapon was equivalent to the second level of the creation realm. It was useless against higher-level creation realm cultivators. As for the profound thunder bead, at this time, could people still use the power of thunder and lightning to attack? The three-story pagoda above Dongfang Haoran's head exploded with a dazzling light, emitting a terrifying power to resist the profound thunder bead's devouring. Because it was a thunder-type origin tool, it was also devoured, a treasure that can devour thunder and lightning. At this time, Dongfang Haoran swallowed a mouthful of saliva, his face full of shock. There's a lot of thunder and lightning energy here. Even if it can't restore him to his peak, it can definitely heal a part of your injuries. You're too eye-catching like this. Keep a low profile. Murong-Yu transmitted his voice to the profound thunder bead. He didn't know if the profound thunder bead had a tool spirit, but such a high-level origin tool could definitely understand his words. Moreover, it had already recognized Murong-Yu as its master. At the same time, Murong-Yu directly controlled it. Thus, while Dongfang Haoran was dumbfounded, the strange phenomenon had already disappeared. Although the profound thunder bead was still devouring thunder and lightning, its speed had slowed down by several times. It was only devouring the thunder and lightning near Murong-Yu. Although it was still shocking, it didn't attract much attention. Moreover, as Murong-Yu said, there was a lot of thunder and lightning here. Although it would slow down the recovery speed, it would recover sooner or later. They didn't have much, but what they had was time. Previously, I accidentally obtained a thunder-type origin tool. Because the injuries were too heavy, it needed to devour thunder and lightning to repair itself. Murong-Yu explained to Dongfang Haoran. Dongfang Haoran nodded, because he also saw the dense cracks on the profound thunder bead that were like a spider web. Shwa! At this moment, a stream of light flew over from the distance, and at the same time, a fierce aura rushed towards Murong-Yu. Beast! Courting death! Dongfang Haoran shouted, and the three-story pagoda, suspended in the void above his head, quickly enlarged, and then directly shone down on the incoming person. With a schwa sound, the incoming person didn't have time to react, and was already enveloped by the single-story pagoda. Then, Murong-Yu saw the three-story pagoda tremble slightly, and thunder and lightning flashed on it. After a while, the pagoda stopped trembling and returned to its previous appearance. However, Murong-Yu was surprised to find that Dongfang Haoran's strength had increased a little. Although it wasn't much, his strength had at least taken a step forward. This magic treasure is actually similar to the primal chaos furnace. Murong-Yu's face revealed astonishment as he looked at the purple three-story pagoda. Just now, Murong-Yu clearly saw that the attack was a bright world realm-level beast. However, the power of this beast was refined by the three-story pagoda. However, Murong-Yu estimated that although the three-story pagoda was able to refine the beast, it was at most 1/10,000th, or even 100,000th of the beast's power was poured into Dongfang Haoran's body. Compared to the primal chaos furnace, which left most of its power, this three-story pagoda was simply trash. However, one must know that Murong-Yu had never seen a magic treasure with this kind of ability. If anyone had this kind of magic treasure, then as long as they continued to refine beasts or cultivators, that person's strength would continue to increase and eventually reach the limit. Just like Murong-Yu, if he continued to refine beasts, his strength would definitely increase much faster than if he cultivated in seclusion. However, he was a big eater, and the refined power of ordinary beasts had no effect on him. Otherwise, Murong-Yu would have gone on a killing spree. If the heaven-defying ability of Dongfang Haoran's magic treasure was spread out, perhaps even a peak creation realm expert couldn't help but personally take action. It was simply too tempting. However, with such a treasure, Dongfang Haoran only had the strength of a bright world realm first level. Even without the Dongfang family's nurturing, his cultivation shouldn't be so low. As if he saw through Murong Yu's thoughts, Dongfang Haoran couldn't help but bitterly smile, although the purple lightning pagoda has the ability to refine beasts and cultivators. However, after refining, only 100,000th of its power can be absorbed by me. Moreover, this power is mottled and impure and contains the consciousness of the person being refined. After I absorb it, I still have to refine it and completely transform it into my own power. Otherwise, if I absorb too much, my power will become mottled and impure. At that time, if this power doesn't listen to me, I will directly explode. Chapter 1946. So that's how it is. Murong Yu came to a realization. Originally, only 100,000th of the energy could be absorbed by Dongfang Haoran, and this energy was mottled and impure. After being refined, it would be good to have 100,000th of it. Moreover, refining energy was the most difficult and most important thing. After all, everyone's energy contained their consciousness and aura. Wanting to completely refine, it was extremely difficult. It was fine if it was someone with a lower realm, but for someone with a lower realm, even if he devoured 100,000th of their energy, what was the use? It would not benefit Dongfang Haoran at all. As for beasts and cultivators with similar realms, refining their consciousness would be even more difficult. As such, 100,000th of their energy would not be of much use to Dongfang Haoran. For beasts with higher realms than Dongfang Haoran, 100,000th of their energy would have a certain effect on Dongfang Haoran. However, it would be extremely difficult for Dongfang Haoran to refine their consciousness. Moreover, it would not be easy for Dongfang Haoran to kill beasts stronger than him. Therefore, although the purple lightning pagoda's power was heaven-defying, it was of little value and did not have much of a guarantee. After all, not every treasure was equivalent to the primal chaos furnace. The primal chaos furnace was the companion of the primal chaos celestial body, and its power was the most heaven-defying. Not only could it devour a large portion of the energy of the person being refined, but it was also purified. However, Dongfang Haoran had actually revealed the heaven-defying power of his treasure to Murong Yu. From this, it could be seen that he wasn't wary of Murong Yu at all. Presumably, he wanted to truly befriend Murong Yu. Of course, Murong Yu had another idea. Dongfang Haoran did not reveal it earlier or later, but only after he had brought out the profound Thunder Pearl. He wanted to tell Murong Yu something. He knew the secret of the profound Thunder Pearl, and he would not reveal it. Therefore, in order to make Murong Yu feel at ease, he let Murong Yu know about the power of the purple lightning pagoda. They did not owe each other anything, and they knew each other's background. Sure enough, in the following period of time, they encountered more beasts from the Thunderclap Extreme Ground. However, Dongfang Haoran did not continue refining it. Instead, he killed it. At the same time, during this process, Murong Yu saw Dongfang Haoran constantly refining the power of the fierce beast that he had devoured before. After he refined it, his strength only increased slightly, but it was better than nothing. However, when they encountered the berserk beasts, this guy would immediately make a move. He didn't give Murong Yu a chance to make a move. This made Murong Yu depressed. In Dongfang Haoran's words, so what if Murong Yu was strong? However, he was only at level 9 of the chaotic space realm. On the other hand, he was at the bright world realm first level, so he was definitely stronger than Murong Yu. Therefore, he had to clean up everything. However, Dongfang Haoran soon received a blow. This was because both of their missions were illusory. One of them was to find the Thunder Spirit, while the other was to find the Thunder Drum. Neither of these two things were known to exist. Therefore, they had been shuttling around the Thunderclap Extreme Ground, hoping to rely on luck to find these two treasures. Many people had entered the Thunderclap Extreme Ground before. Although the Thunderclap Extreme Ground was extremely large, it was easy to encounter more people. On this day, the two of them were surrounded by 3 high-level Bright World Realm cultivators. The lowest level of the 3 was at the Bright World Realm 7th level, while the highest was at the Bright World Realm 9th level. Murong Yu, I'll hold them back. You quickly escape from here. Before Murong Yu could speak, Dongfang Howren had already dragged him to the back and said in a deep voice. Murong Yu was a little depressed, but he didn't say anything. However, because of this, he had a higher opinion of Dongfang Howren. This guy was willing to sacrifice himself in exchange for time to escape? What good guy? Leave these 2 origin treasures for me. Then you can scram. The Bright World Realm 7th level cultivator's eyes lit up as he looked at the mysterious Thunder Bead and Purple Lightning Pagoda. Murong Yu was only at the Chaotic World Realm 9th level, while Dongfang Howren's cultivation was higher, but he was only at the Bright World Realm 1st level. Why could they run amok in the Thunderclap extreme ground with such cultivation? It definitely wasn't because of their heaven-defying strength, but because of the treasures above their heads. If they obtained these treasures, wouldn't they be able to run amok even more? Third brother, you're too kind. Make them hand over their spatial treasures before they can scram. Otherwise, we'll kill them. The Bright World Realm 8th level cultivator coldly glanced at Murong Yu and Dongfang Howren. The Bright World Realm 7th level cultivator slapped his thigh fiercely. Damn it! How could I forget about this? You 2 damn things. Why aren't you handing over your origin treasures and spatial treasures? Could it be that you want to die? You 3 evil things. Even if we hand over our origin treasures and spatial treasures, you won't let us go, right? Dongfang Howren was a good guy, but he wasn't stupid. How could he not know what the 3 of them were planning? Hence, he didn't hold back and scolded them. At the same time, he transmitted a message to Murong Yu. I'm going to make a move. Hurry up and run. Before he finished speaking, Dongfang Howren indeed made a move. He summoned the Purple Lightning Pagoda and attacked the 3 of them from head to toe. Murong Yu rolled his eyes. This guy was really speechless. Courting death. The Bright World Realm 7th level cultivator jumped up as if he was humiliated by Dongfang Howren. He furiously punched out. Boom! The Purple Lightning Pagoda was directly sent flying, and Dongfang Howren was also sent flying without any suspense. He violently spat out blood in the void. He was injured by the shockwave. Murong Yu, if you don't run now, when will you? Dongfang Howren, who was sent flying, saw that Murong Yu was still standing there without moving and couldn't help but roar. Where do you think you're going? None of you will be able to escape. Today, all of you must die. The Bright World Realm 7th level cultivator stretched out his hand and punched towards Dongfang Howren. With his strength 6 levels higher than Dongfang Howren couldn't block it at all and would be directly smashed to pieces by the opponent. Seeing that the opponent's fist was about to hit Dongfang Howren was already in despair. However, at this critical moment, a large hand appeared out of nowhere and directly grabbed the hand of the Bright World Realm 7th level cultivator. Time seemed to stop at this moment. The hand of the Bright World Realm 7th level cultivator seemed to be stuck in the void. No matter how he struggled, he couldn't move an inch. In shock, the Bright World Realm 7th level cultivator looked at the owner of the large hand. It was actually the Chaotic Space Realm 9th level Murong Yu that they had been ignoring all this time. Third brother, what's the matter with you? Could it be that you've wasted all your strength on a woman's belly? The face of the second brother of the 3 sunk, and he coldly shouted. The Bright World Realm 7th level cultivator's face was incomparably ugly. It wasn't that he was too weak, but that Murong Yu was too strong. Murong Yu's strength was too great, and he couldn't struggle at all. Die for me. The Bright World Realm 7th level cultivator roared and directly punched towards Murong Yu with his other fist, wanting to kill Murong Yu with one punch. A cold light flashed past Murong Yu's eyes, and his other hand also punched out. Kacha! Without any suspense, the fist of the Bright World Realm 7th level cultivator was directly shattered. On the other hand, Murong Yu's fist continued forward. After shattering the opponent's fist, he also shattered the opponent's arm. In the end, he even smashed half of the opponent's body with one punch. Hand over all your treasures or die. Murong Yu looked at the opponent with a cold gaze, returning the same words back to him. What kind of monster is this? How can he be so strong? The Bright World Realm 7th level cultivator was about to cry from fear. Boss, save me. This brat is too strange, too strong. A dignified Bright World Realm 7th level cultivator was scared to the point of collapse. Let go of third brother, or you all die. The Bright World Realm 9th level cultivator that hadn't spoken until now took a step forward and looked at Murongyu with a cold expression, and killing intent surged. At this moment, Dongfang Haoran, who had fallen in the distance, looked at Murongyu in a daze. Is this still the Murongyu that I know? How can he be so strong? Then, Dongfang Haoran suffered a huge blow. It turns out that he's so strong. To think that I said that I'm stronger than him, Dongfang Haoran's face turned red. However, I wonder if he's a match for a Bright World Realm 9th level cultivator? If that's the case, doesn't that mean that he has the battle prowess of an entire realm above him? That's truly terrifying. However, I've never heard of such a heaven-defying disciple in the Sun Sect. All right, I'll let him go. Murongyu suddenly smiled and threw the Bright World Realm 7th level cultivator in his hand to the Bright World Realm 9th level cultivator. Seeing this scene, the two Bright World Realm 9th level cultivators sneered in their hearts. Dongfang Haoran, who was behind them, had a dazed expression. Is Murongyu still inexperienced? How can he let him go just like that? Aya. However, while the two Bright World Realm 9th level cultivators were sneering and Dongfang Haoran was speechless, the stage 7 Bright World Realm cultivator that Murongyu had thrown out suddenly exploded into pieces. Then, there was no more then. Even his soul was blown to smithereens. Of course, he couldn't be more dead. Dongfang Haoran and the other two were stunned. Very quickly, the two of them reacted. You're courting death. With a loud roar, the two of them attacked at the same time. Instantly, a vast and mighty force covered the sky and covered the earth. In an instant, it drowned Murongyu. Murongyu's eyes flickered with a cold light. Against such people, he should just kill them. Therefore, he didn't intend to show mercy. He directly erupted with the battle prowess of a half-step blessed realm cultivator and met them head-on. Although their cultivations were relatively high, an entire realm higher than Murongyu's. Their true strength was far inferior to a half-step blessed realm cultivator. Therefore, Murongyu, who erupted with the battle prowess of a half-step blessed realm cultivator, didn't need to use any moves. He just rewarded them with a punch each. Then, the two of them exploded. There was no suspense. Chapter 1947. Murongyu suddenly exclaimed. Seeing Murongyu's surprised look, Dongfang Haoran couldn't care less about his shock and came forward. Road map? The road map to the cave in the Thunderclap extreme ground? Dongfang Haoran immediately exclaimed. After Murongyu killed the enemy, he always had the habit of plundering the enemy's treasures as spoils of war. After killing these 3 people, Murongyu collected their spatial treasures. Originally, he didn't expect these 3 people to have any treasures. Seeing that they were rogue cultivators, what good things could a rogue cultivator have? But Murongyu's spiritual sense still habitually probed inside. Who knew that he would find something? A yellowish map made from the skin of an unknown beast was held in his hand. With just a glance, Murongyu found that the final point of this roadmap was the legendary cave in the Thunderclap extreme ground. That cave really exists. Dongfang Haoran looked at Murongyu with hesitation and asked at the same time. Like Murongyu, he didn't think that the cave existed. But now that this roadmap had appeared, it immediately overturned their previous point of view. Moreover, the roadmap also indicated that this beast skin, in addition to the roadmap, was also the key to opening the cave. Without this key, even if they found the cave, they wouldn't be able to enter it. Whether it's true or not, why don't we just go and take a look? Murongyu laughed. He was also dubious about this so-called roadmap. Moreover, it was actually obtained by those 3 unlucky bastards. It was really strange. Of course, if those 3 guys didn't want to rob, how could this roadmap be obtained by Murongyu? Sometimes, when one's character was good, even if the opportunity didn't belong to you, it would suddenly belong to you. Although he didn't know whether the roadmap was true or not, Moronyu had nothing to do now. He was just aimlessly looking for the Thunder Spirit and the so-called Thunder Drum in the Thunderclap Extreme Ground. This kind of thing that relied on probability was simply illusory. Moronyu guessed that if the Thunderclap Extreme Ground really had an immortal cave, then the Thunderclap Drum and the Thunder Fairy would most likely appear there. Thus, he and Dongfang Howren hit it off and immediately flew along the route. However, not long after, Moronyu stopped. He looked at Dongfang Howren speechlessly. "I say, you're a man. Can you not look at me with such bitter eyes? I have goosebumps all over my body." Dongfang Howren was still looking at Moronyu with bitter eyes. "Moronyu, you're really hiding your strength. A chaotic space realm level 9 could easily kill a bright world realm level 9 existence, killing an enemy one major realm above them. You're really a pervert. To think that I even volunteered to kill the ferocious beasts." As he spoke, Dongfang Howren felt somewhat depressed and ashamed. Moronyu glared at him. "Didn't I want to say it many times, but did you give me a chance?" Dongfang Howren thought for a moment, then shook his head. It seemed that he really didn't give Moronyu a chance. However, Moronyu's battle strength was really too terrifying. Once he broke through to the Bright World realm, wouldn't he be able to directly kill a low-level creation realm existence? In fact, what Dongfang Howren didn't know was that long before they came to the Thunderclap Extreme Ground, Moronyu had already killed a creation realm existence. It was just that it wasn't his own strength. But in the end, he still killed a creation realm powerhouse. If news of him killing an enemy 2 realms above him spread out, it would definitely cause the world to collapse. Moreover, Dongfang Howren didn't know how difficult it was for Moronyu to break through to the Bright World realm. Because of the road map, the two didn't take any detours and quickly went deep. During this process, the fierce beasts they encountered became stronger and stronger. At this time, Dongfang Howren finally stopped attacking. Instead, he hid behind Moronyu and leisurely watched as Moronyu killed the fierce beasts. Fierce beasts below the creation realm were no match for Moronyu. Therefore, they went straight ahead and were unstoppable. However, the occasional sound of thunder became more and more terrifying. After knowing the attack method of the sound of thunder, Moronyu's soul sphere would vibrate every time the sound of thunder appeared and then shatter the sound of thunder. Therefore, he wasn't afraid of the sound of thunder at all. What surprised him was Dongfang Howren's Purple Lightning Pagoda. Previously, Dongfang Howren said that the Purple Lightning Pagoda was his father's legacy and was a creation realm origin tool. However, the Purple Lightning Pagoda's performance made Moronyu suspect that it was an even higher level origin tool. Because whether it was thunder or sound of thunder, they couldn't penetrate the Purple Lightning Pagoda's defense and attack Dongfang Howren. Therefore, on the surface, Dongfang Howren seemed to be taking a stroll in the park compared to Moronyu. However, his Purple Lightning Pagoda was an origin tool. Every time it was used, it would consume a large amount of energy. Although the Purple Lightning Pagoda was highly compatible with Dongfang Howren, it didn't consume a lot of energy. However, Dongfang Howren was only at the first level of the Bright World realm. How much energy did he have? Not long after, he couldn't hold on any longer. Therefore, he constantly took out pills to replenish his energy. However, the elixirs he took out caused Moronyu to shake his head repeatedly. These people in the Dongfang family were really in dire straits. He was a Bright World realm existence, yet he was still using a chaotic space realm pill. Moreover, those pills were only ordinary pills. Even so, Dongfang Howren was very careful every time he swallowed a pill. He would only swallow one when he couldn't hold on any longer. This poor child. Moronyu couldn't stand it anymore and directly threw a storage ring to Dongfang Howren. "What's this?" Dongfang Howren took it. At the same time, he probed with his divine sense. Then, he looked at Moronyu in shock. Pills. There were all kinds of pills. All of them were Bright World Realm pills. They were piled up like a mountain. In addition to the pills to replenish energy, There were also various healing and recovery pills. The medicinal pills here were like the savings of a sect. Thank you. Dongfang Haoran knew his own situation. He didn't refuse and directly accepted it. However, he was very grateful to Murongyu. However, as a man, he buried his gratitude deep in his heart. He decided that he would repay Murongyu in the future. Murongyu glared at him. It's just some pills that you don't need. You don't have to be polite. Dongfang Haoran rolled his eyes and felt a little speechless. The two of them had similar statuses. Moreover, his cultivation was higher than Murongyu's by a bit. But why was Murongyu doing so well while he was so miserable? Could it be a problem of character? In fact, Dongfang Haoran really couldn't compare with Murongyu. Murongyu had never relied on others all the way until now. Even if he joined a sect, he would only treat that sect as a temporary place to stay. Everything that he had obtained through his own efforts. As for Dongfang Haoran, other than the necessary experience, it could be said that he had always been under the protection of the Dongfang family. Therefore, how could he compare with Murongyu? What Murongyu had given him was merely the tip of the iceberg of all his treasures. Although the 6 great forces of the sky martial world couldn't be compared with the Dongfang family, they were still much richer than Dongfang Haoran. But Murongyu emptied the treasury of the 6 great forces with the support of Murongyu's large amount of ammunition. Dongfang Haoran no longer held back and began to crazily swallow pills. As a result, their speed of advancement became even faster. Of course, the closer they got to the depths of the thunderous extreme grounds, the more terrifying the thunder became. Even the thunder and lightning became more and more terrifying. With the current power of the thunder and lightning, it was already enough to injure Murongyu. However, Murongyu directly took out the profound thunder bead and let it float in the air above his head. The power of the bombardment didn't even reach Murongyu's body before it was completely absorbed by the profound thunder bead. The profound thunder bead was a thunder attribute treasure. Although it was now heavily injured, the thunder and lightning of the thunderous extreme grounds didn't threaten it. On the contrary, it became its food, its tonic. After swallowing a large amount of thunder and lightning, Murongyu finally saw the cracks on the profound thunder bead gradually repair. As for the thunder attack, it was still unable to do anything to Murongyu's soul. However, it was still unbearable. Therefore, Murongyu was forced to escape into the Hichu Luo Shu with his main soul, leaving only a soul clone without much consciousness in the soul space. The thunder attack naturally drilled into the Hichu Luo Shu, but it was easily destroyed by Murongyu. On the other side, Dongfang Haoran's thunder and lightning attacks were still unable to do anything to him. However, he was madly swallowing pills at every moment. If this continued, the pills that Murongyu gave him would soon be consumed. Therefore, in the end, Dongfang Haoran could only thicken his face and enter the range of the profound thunder bead's protection. At this time, only the sound of thunder had any effect on him. The thunder and lightning couldn't hit him at all. It should be in front, Dongfang Haoran said excitedly. However, he soon couldn't be excited anymore, because at the end of the map, there were already a lot of people gathered. Each and every one of them exploded with a powerful and terrifying aura. Most of them were existences in the creation realm. F***CK. Dongfang Haoran directly cursed. These people didn't have a map, so how did they know that this was where the cave was? There was nothing special about this place. If there was something special, then the thunder attack here was the most powerful, and the thunder and lightning were also the most terrifying. At this time, even those existences in the creation realm didn't dare to be distracted by the thunder and lightning attacks. Swish! At the same time that Murongyu noticed them, they also looked over. When they saw the combination of Murongyu and Dongfang Haoran's realms, those experts were stunned at first, then their faces revealed a fanatical smile. In this place, except for a few existences in the half-step creation realm who could enter, the rest were at least in the creation realm. However, Murongyu and Dongfang Haoran had appeared. What did this mean? It meant that they had powerful treasures on them. Chapter 1948. Little friend, it's too dangerous here. Come to Big Sister's side. I'll protect you. An extremely flirtatious-looking woman smiled brightly at Murong Yu and Dongfang Haoran as she extended her hand towards them. Haha, Lady Poison, who doesn't know that you kill without spilling blood? If we go to your side, we won't even know how we died. Little brother, come to my side. We can enter the cave together. A rough-looking middle-aged man laughed loudly at Murong Yu as he slowly walked over. At the same time, many people were already walking towards Murong Yu. Seeing this scene, Murong Yu and Dongfang Haoran's faces immediately darkened. They never thought that there would be so many manifestation realm experts gathered here. If they knew, they would have kept the Black Thunder Bead and other treasures. This was because the lightning and thunder in the depths of the Thunderclap Extreme Grounds had a terrifying effect on spiritual sense. Thus, along the way, Murong Yu and Dongfang Haoran did not extend their spiritual sense. Thus, only when they saw the crowd did they react. Run! Murong Yu and Dongfang Haoran looked at each other. Then the two of them turned around and were about to explosively retreat. The two of you, since you're here, don't leave. A sinister voice rang out behind them. Murong Yu turned his head to look, only to see that they were already surrounded by manifestation realm experts. Furthermore, in order to prevent them from entering the treasure space or using teleportation talismans, every manifestation realm expert had already exploded with power, constantly shaking the heavens and earth. Murong Yu could not enter the Hichu Luoshu at all. Bastard! Murong Yu's face was ashen as he looked at the crowd, his heart bursting with a terrifying killing intent. These people wanted to kill him and steal his treasures again. Little friend, give your treasures to me. I can protect you from harm. In fact, when you enter the cave, I can even guarantee your safety. The coquettish woman, who was also the poison matriarch, leisurely walked over, swaying her graceful body. As she spoke, she secretly cast flirtatious glances at Murong Yu and the other two. This woman had a fiery figure, and she wore very little. Some of the graceful parts of her body were faintly discernible, making her extremely alluring. However, the others were more or less in groups of 3 or 5, but there was no one around the femme fatale. In fact, there was no one in the area around the poison lady. This woman was so flirtatious, yet no one dared to approach her. She was obviously not a good person. She was definitely a vicious woman, the kind that would eat people without spitting out their bones. Therefore, Murong Yu and Wang Chong did not even look at him. Because neither of them were lustful people, they were basically immune to female charms. Hold your breath. Murong Yu's face suddenly changed as he shouted at Dongfang Haoran. Dongfang Haoran's body trembled, and he immediately held his breath. Lady Poison, do you know that you are going to incur the wrath of the masses? At this moment, the rough-looking middle-aged man who had spoken to Murong Yu earlier looked at the poison lady in anger. At the same time, the other manifestation stage rankers also looked at the poison lady with killing intent. Dongfang Haoran originally didn't know what was going on. Why did Murong Yu suddenly make him hold his breath? Now, he finally found out the reason. A faint pink mist continuously emitted from the poison lady's body, quickly spreading in all directions. The surrounding manifestation stage rankers who had discovered the pink mist all activated their energy barriers around their bodies, their faces revealing expressions of vigilance. It was likely that the poison lady's pink mist was extremely terrifying, scaring everyone. Pink death. Seeing the pink mist, Murong Yu's face was filled with shock, and he couldn't help but exclaim out loud. The pink mist emitted from the poison lady's body was clearly the pink death. However, this pink mist was of a much higher level than the pink death. It was as if it was an upgraded version of the pink death. However, Murong Yu's pink death was something he had learned from an evil dragon when he was in the sacred world. How could two people from two different worlds, who had no interaction with each other, use the same cultivation technique? Could it be that the pink morning that the black dragon cultivated was not created by itself, but cultivated the same cultivation method as the femme fatale? The femme fatale, who was slowly walking over, stopped when she heard the words pink morning. At the same time, she looked at Murongyu in surprise. Little friend, how do you know about the pink death? The poison lady was quite curious. That was because she had never told anyone about the pink morning. Others only knew that her poison mist was powerful, but they didn't know that it was the pink death. When he exclaimed, Murongyu knew that something was wrong. At this moment, hearing the poison lady's question, Murongyu's face revealed a confused expression. What pink death are you talking about? Did I say that? Dongfang Haoran, did I just say that? Dongfang Haoran immediately nodded his head blankly and was almost killed by Murongyu, silencing him. This guy was too deceptive, too unreliable. Little friend, I advise you not to play dumb. Otherwise, if elder sister gets angry, blood will flow for thousands of miles. The poison lady looked at Murongyu and slowly walked over. Poison lady, if you don't take back your poison mist, don't blame us for being impolite. The rough middle-aged man said with killing intent. He was already gathering his strength, as if he was about to attack. The poison lady stopped and turned her head to look coldly at the rough middle-aged man. Then, she waved her hand at him. The rough middle-aged man let out a strange cry and quickly retreated. It was as if he was extremely afraid of this poison lady. If anyone wants to experience the feeling of being in heaven and dying, why don't you give it a try? As she spoke, the poison lady coldly glanced at the people around her. Anyone who met the poison lady's gaze, no matter what realm they were in, couldn't help but avert their eyes, not daring to make contact with her. It was obvious that they were all extremely afraid of this poison lady. A bunch of cowards. Seeing this, Dongfang Haoran couldn't help but mutter. However, even though his voice was soft, which one of the people present wasn't a peerless expert. As a result, his words were clearly heard by everyone. This caused everyone's faces to darken, but no one dared to flare up. Who exactly is this poison lady? How could she be so terrifying? Murongyu was extremely shocked in his heart. In terms of cultivation, the poison lady was definitely not the highest cultivator present. But she seemed to be the most terrifying person. Could it be because of the pink death? If it was the upgraded version of the pink death, it was natural for these people to fear the poison lady. Wong. At this moment, Murongyu felt the map in his hand suddenly tremble. Murongyu probed with his spiritual will and discovered that the map was actually emitting waves of light. This is bad. Murongyu suddenly cried out in alarm. Then, at this moment, an incomparably powerful force enveloped him and Dongfang Haoran. Even the poison lady, who had already approached them, disappeared with a schwa sound. They're gone? Seeing Murongyu and the other two suddenly disappear, the surrounding people were shocked. Then, one by one, they began to search the surroundings, but they still couldn't find anything. Murongyu and the other two seemed to have disappeared in a thin air. Could it be that they have the key to the cave? Have they already been teleported into the cave? It must be because of those two brats. The people present were not stupid. They instantly guessed the truth. However, because of that, they became even more furious. If it wasn't for the poison lady, Murongyu and Dongfang Haoran would have been taken down by one of them. Then, that person would not only be able to obtain Murongyu's treasures, but also the treasures in the cave. According to the legends, the owner of the cave was an existence that surpassed the creation realm. But now, everything was taken advantage of by the poison lady. This woman was already very terrifying. If she obtained any more powerful treasures, then it would be even more terrifying. At that time, everyone present would not be a match for the poison lady. Then was this the truth? When Murongyu once again stepped on the ground, he had already appeared in a world of birds and flowers. Compared to the thunderclap plaza outside, where lightning flashed and thunder rumbled, this place was simply a paradise. As far as the eye could see, there were flowers, green trees, tall mountains, and flowing water. Everything was so beautiful. At the same time, there were a few small animals around Murongyu who were looking at them curiously, not afraid of strangers at all. However, the heaven-earth origin chi here was a bit low. It was only equivalent to the holy world. Could it be that they were teleported to a planet similar to the Holy World? Murong immediately spread out his enormous divine thought. In an instant, his divine thought had already enveloped the entire world, except for a few places where divine thought could not enter. There were no cultivators, just like a mortal space. There were no ferocious beasts here. There were only ordinary animals or demonic beasts. However, their strength was not high. It seemed that the demonic beasts here could not cultivate. It was not a planet. Murong, you could feel the majestic vitality of this world. Moreover, this world was limited. It was not infinite. However, at the boundary of this world, there seemed to be something blocking it. Murong's divine thought could not extend into it. It was like a small space, but it was definitely not a small space. This was because there was a unique and complete world law of this small world. This is a small world created by a netherworld expert. At this moment, a cry of surprise sounded behind Murong. Naturally, it was the voice of the poison matriarch. A small world created by a netherworld expert. Murong and Dongfang Haoran looked at each other and repeated the words of the poison matriarch. For some reason, the poison matriarch seemed to be in a good mood. She actually explained to the two rookies in Murong, the netherworld realm is the supreme existence above the creation realm. A creation realm expert can create things, but a netherworld insight realm expert can even create a minor world. Create a small world. Murong and Dongfang Haoran, the two rookies, were immediately stunned. Creating a world was different from creating a space. Opening up a small space was just opening it up on the basis of a large space. However, this small space was still a part of the large space and had the same world law as the large space. However, a small world created was different. It was a completely independent world. It could have its own world law, the world law designated by the creator. Chapter 1949. A creation realm expert could create things and create some simple life forms. But the profound insight realm, which was a higher realm, could create a small world. Even though it was just the difference between creation and world creation, this difference was enough to instantly kill the strongest creation realm cultivator. After all, creation and world creation were on completely different levels. Chaos realm experts could control the laws of space, and Bright World realm experts could control the laws of time. Creation realm experts above the Bright World realm could create. Even stronger Netherworld realm experts could create small worlds. Then, what was above the Netherworld realm? What kind of heaven-defying abilities did those existences have? Looking at the world in front of him, Murong fell into deep thought. Suddenly, a question appeared in his mind. If a dark insight expert could create a small world, then wouldn't the cultivation world, immortal world, God world, and holy world all be created by peak experts? The more he thought about it, the more Murong felt that there was such a possibility. After all, Sage World was just a planet. But this planet's world was artificially divided into several levels. Several levels? From the lowest level of mortals to the immortal realm, then the immortal realm, then the God realm, and finally the holy realm. And Sage World should be the normal world of this planet, right? Thinking up to this point, Murong suddenly came to a realization. Why did people from Sage World have to go through reincarnation, but those from Origin Star didn't? Why did Murong often get struck by lightning in Sage World, but he didn't even hear about heavenly tribulations after coming to Origin Star? Obviously, the world laws in Sage World were different from the world laws in the endless starry sky. The world laws of a small world didn't apply to the endless starry sky. Moreover, if people from small world wanted to enter a large world, they had to break free from the shackles of the small world, which meant they had to go through reincarnation. Hence, there was the concept of going through reincarnation. This small world is still a little strange. Why is there no one here? Dongfang Haoran asked in confusion. Although creation realm experts could create things, they could only create some simple life forms, such as little rabbits. As for higher level life forms like humans, they couldn't create them. Even a profound nether realm expert wouldn't be able to create it. So if there was no one in this world, then it meant that the Nether Enlightenment Realm expert didn't allow anyone to live or reproduce here. This minor world is of a very high level. It is close to a great world, the femme fatale said excitedly. Murong Yu and Dongfang Haoran turned to look at the excited Lady Poison with a puzzled expression. Lady Femme Fatale kept talking about the small world and the big world. But what exactly was a small world and a big world? The Femme Fatale seemed to be in a good mood today. She hurriedly explained to Murong Yu, small worlds are the worlds on some ordinary planets. To put it simply, the worlds that can't produce rebirth realm cultivators can be called small worlds. As for those Yuan stars, even a 1 Yuan star can be called a great world. Murong Yu and the other man nodded in understanding, but they still did not understand why the Femme Fatale was so excited. Was this just to get close to the great world? Seeming to have seen through their doubts, Lady Poison continued. Legend has it that supreme existences at the Netherworld Insight stage can only create small worlds. Only experts at a higher realm can create large worlds. The Heaven-Earth origin chi in this small world is close to that of a great world. In other words, the Netherworld Insight stage expert who created this small world is already infinitely close to a higher realm. If I can obtain the inheritance of this Netherworld Insight stage expert, then I can reach the peak of the Netherworld Insight stage. I might even be able to comprehend to a higher realm. Murong Yu is clear on this point. In the endless starry sky, one could not continuously break through just because there was abundant heaven-earth origin chi. One also needed a necessary inheritance. In fact, it was not appropriate to call it an inheritance. It required a cultivation technique of the same realm. For example, if a Genhua realm cultivator wanted to break through to the Netherworld Insight stage, then in addition to needing enough heaven-earth origin chi, he had to cultivate a Netherworld Insight stage cultivation technique. Otherwise, it would be difficult to break through. Of course, it was not impossible to break through without a cultivation technique, but there were too few examples. If the expert who created this small world had left behind an inheritance, then with his comprehension, he would have definitely reached the peak of the Netherworld Insight stage. In this way, the Femme Fatale would be able to break through very quickly. However, why was the Femme Fatale so sure that this Netherworld Insight stage expert would definitely leave behind an inheritance here? A small world usually exists in the body of a Netherworld Insight stage expert. If it stays in a certain place for a long time without moving, then it means that the Netherworld Insight stage expert has fallen, or was forcefully removed from the body by that expert. In my opinion, the Netherworld Insight stage expert who created this small world has most likely fallen. Come, let's go take a look. As she spoke, the Femme Fatale took the lead and soared into the sky, flying towards a place where Murong Yu's spiritual sense could not reach. However, Murong Yu and Dongfang Haoran did not move. This Femme Fatale had explained so much to them, as if she was a good person. However, they did not forget the nature of the Femme Fatale. She would easily kill people and was very powerful. They really did not want to stay with her. Seeing that the two of them did not move, the Femme Fatale did not say anything. She only glanced at Murong Yu and Dongfang Haoran indifferently. An incomparably strong aura of danger suddenly rose from the bottom of Murong Yu and Dongfang Haoran's hearts. Therefore, the two of them looked at each other, and after cursing in their hearts, they soared into the air and followed after him. The Femme Fatale was not like Linan. Murong Yu estimated that even if he took out the profound thunder bead, he would not be able to kill this woman. Thus, he could only carefully follow the Femme Fatale. When the time came, he would find an opportunity to leave. The small world was equivalent to the sacred world. Moreover, the laws of the world here were not special. They did not suppress Murong Yu and the other two visitors from outer space. Thus, in a short while, they had already arrived at a place where Murong Yu's spiritual sense could not reach. Lightning. Looking at the densely packed area in front of them that was formed by interweaving lightning, Murong Yu and Dongfang Haoran's hair stood on end. It wasn't because they were afraid of anything, but because the lightning was extremely powerful. Lightning particles floated in the air around them. Murong Yu and the other's hair were electrocuted. This lightning is so terrifying. Dongfang Haoran looked at the lightning with a pale face. The area of lightning was not large. It was about 100 million miles in radius. However, the lightning gave Murong Yu and the others a terrifying feeling. Not to mention Dongfang Haoran, who was at the first level of the Bright World realm. Even Murong Yu felt a strong aura of death from the lightning. He did not know if it was because of the lightning or if there was a terrifying existence in the lightning. Buzz. At this moment, the profound thunder bead that Murong Yu had already stored his body jumped out by itself. It exploded with dazzling lightning. At the same time, waves of excitement continuously spread out from the mysterious thunder bead. Excitement. It was like a hungry wolf that had seen food. Murong Yu wasn't surprised by this at all. After all, the profound thunder bead was a lightning attribute treasure. Devouring lightning was an instinct. And the stronger the lightning, the more the profound thunder bead liked it. Because the stronger the lightning, the faster it could recover to its peak state. Seeing the profound thunder bead turn into a stream of light and rush into the endless lightning, the femme fatale could not help but be surprised. A glint flashed in her eyes. Even for her, the lightning gave her a very dangerous feeling. However, the mysterious thunder bead was not afraid at all as it charged in. This meant that the profound thunder bead must be an origin tool that surpassed the manifestation realm. It was at least at the insight realm. Dong! At this moment, an incomparably loud and muffled sound of thunder rang out from the thunder and lightning. Murong Yu and the others were the first to bear the brunt of the thunder and were immediately attacked by it. Bang! As soon as the sound of thunder appeared, Dongfang Haoran's purple lightning pagoda seemed to be threatened. It automatically exploded with powerful purple lightning and enveloped Dongfang Haoran's entire body. But even so, Dongfang Haoran was still sent flying. Even though the manifestation realm existence, the femme fatale groaned from the bombardment. While her face was pale, a trace of blood escaped from the corner of her mouth. In the end, the femme fatale was forced to take a few steps back before she could stabilize herself. Among the three of them, Dongfang Haoran was directly sent flying. In the end, he fell heavily into the distance. Although he was in a sorry state, he was not injured. His situation was even better than the femme fatale, who was in the manifestation realm. This made the femme fatale extremely depressed. With her strength, she could easily kill Dongfang Haoran and the femme fatale, but it seemed that she was the one in the most miserable state. What was going on? Wasn't there another person? The femme fatale looked at Murong Yu and found that Murong Yu was standing there like a mountain, not moving at all. However, when the femme fatale looked at Murong Yu, she saw that Murong Yu's face was lifeless and his eyes were lifeless, as if he was a walking corpse. But in less than a tenth of an instant, this phenomenon disappeared. Murong Yu returned to his previous appearance, full of vitality. For a moment, the femme fatale thought that she was hallucinating. Only the Murong Yu and the femme fatale were not hallucinating. What she saw before was indeed real. The moment the thunder sound appeared, Murong Yu was unable to resist at all. Although his soul had already reached the peak of the reincarnation stage, this thunder attack was at least at the manifestation realm. How could he block it? As a result, all of his consciousness was erased from his soul at the first moment. Fortunately, Murong Yu had already made preparations. His main soul had always been in the Hichu, Luo Shu, and the one who controlled his body was only his soul avatar. No one knew the importance of the soul better than Murong Yu, who was a soul cultivator. Once the soul was erased, then no matter how strong your body was, it would be useless. Thus, during this period of time, Murong Yu's main soul had always been in the Hichu Luo Shu. What he had to prevent was this kind of situation where his soul was suddenly erased. And the more this kind of situation occurred, the more cautious Murong Yu became. He was afraid that his main soul would never leave the Hichu Luo Shu in the future. This way, Even if his soul, avatar, and body were destroyed and unable to be reborn, he would not truly die. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.